Beneath a gloomy, overcast sky, a plain little church-like building squats in a quiet rural village, like it's been waiting for something to happen. Inside, the pews are packed with the backs of countless elderly villagers, all settling in clothes like a whole town showing up at once. An older woman's voice roars through the room, yelling about how today's youth have no respect left. She towers over the young man, barking that he better hand over medicine before she starts harvesting her eggs. Magna the alchemist calmly tells Itza about her brand new prescription. Ilza fires back, furious, and snaps that she's already wiped out every last bit of the supply. She insists that because the ingredients all come from the village, they might as well be free. Magna tries to warn everyone about the nasty dangers that come from gulping that potion too much. Ilza snaps in, furious, and shuts him down because she knows her own body better than anyone. She keeps snapping at him like he's a kid, berating him for even daring to question her judgment. Beat down, Magna slumps and covers his face, mumbling like he finally gets it. He hauls in a brutal wooden crate, packed wall-to-wall with dozens of potion bottles. He hands her a full month's supply and begs her to stick to the dosage, no excuses. Ilza snatches the crate and snarls that he should have handed it to her way sooner. Magna's face hardens with pure rage as he watches her walk away. All by himself, he stares into the shadows and grits his teeth. He's the only alchemist left to serve a whole aging population. He peeks out the door and finds the clinic still packed to the brim with patients. He scans the packed waiting room, and every single day it just sucks the life out of him. Two elderly patients lean in and confess to each other. Turns out they're not really sick at all. He keeps working, carefully tending the old man's leg, and you can feel how heavy that responsibility is. Magna gently leans toward Yona and asks, "Has your condition changed at all?" Yana shrugs off the question and insists, with zero hesitation, that his body's just the same as always. He finally admits a storm smashed his roof, then begs Magna to fix it for him. Magna scrambles to explain his jam-packed calendar of appointments, and the foraging he's squeezed in too. The villagers were furious. Either he repairs that roof right now, or they'll be demanding it by the weekend. Later on, he wrestles that man's arm into place, shouldering a never-ending pile of chores. He tells the man the fracture is finally treated, and orders him to stop popping those potions. The man winces, says it still aches like hell, and demands the doctor hand over more medicine right now. Magna tells everyone that his natural healing power should be enough to set everything right now. Then the man calls for a massive stockpile, ordering up supplies for the harvest festival like he's preparing for battle. Magna can't stop recalling, with nerves on edge, the promise he made to Yona back then to fix her roof. The man tells Magnus, finish every last bit before tomorrow morning. Magna mumbles a weak yes, already dreading the brutal truth. He's about to ride through the night without a wink of sleep. His face tightens and a smug, self-righteous sneer takes over. He kicks off his lecture by declaring, loud and fearless, that hardship is the kind of fire that forges the young. He decides today's youth just don't have grit, and that choice drives Magna straight to the edge. And just like that, Magna finds himself trudging deep into the forest, hunting for what he can't afford to miss. His woven basket overflows with the herbs and mushrooms he just gathered. He drops to his knees and blurts out, "Did I grab enough for everyone?" From the shadows behind him, the beast's giant mass creeps in without a sound, closing the distance fast. The saber-toothed beast rockets forward, jaws stretched wide, hunting the kill with pure momentum. Magna whips around on the spot, and in an instant his tired, worn-out look gets replaced by pure fighter energy. With a flash of motion, he yanks a carved flintlock pistol out from his hip. He steadies his hands, and a razor-cold focus takes over his face as he takes aim. The hammer snaps back, then the pistol erupts in a thunderous roar. That brutal strike blasts the beast backward, and its head erupts like a burst firecracker. He looms over the fallen creature, and with this kill done, he checks off yet another duty. Bitter regret claws at him as he realizes hunting down dangerous monsters is, unfortunately, part of his job too. His life is a brutal loop of non-stop work, clocking in, clocking out, and never once getting a moment to breathe for himself. The moon blazes overhead as night crashes down for real. Utter exhaustion hits Magna hard. He collapses into a chair in his empty home, barely able to move. He's furious because he crushed every task, only to finish it all without even getting a bite to eat. He stares in shock. His simple dinner of bread and dried meat has vanished. Staring at the empty basket, he realizes someone devoured it already. He locks in on the culprit, Yago, that old man who can't help wandering off like he's searching for something. With a heavy sigh, he steels himself. He's grabbing more ingredients before he dares to rest. His footsteps hit the darkness again, and he leaves his home behind with no turning back. He finally admits to himself, saying this life isn't brutal would be a straight-up lie. Alone on the road, he can't stop thinking about the crushing weight of his lonely, unappreciated grind. But nothing crushes him like one single thing more than anything. The villagers' demanding, entitled faces keep flashing in his mind, like a warning he can't shut out. He seethes at their hypocrisy, demanding his service, and not even bothering with a single word of thanks. A calm voice calls his name, then he whips around, stunned that it's happening. It's the village chief, her face calm, warm, and downright kind. She leans in and asks, "So, are you done with your work for the day yet?" He shoots her a worried look and asks if she's feeling sick. She flashes a tired smile, insists she's okay, and hands him a loaf of bread like it's the best thing in the world. She tells him, "I baked it for you," because she knew he'd be buried in work and couldn't spare time. Magna hesitates, asking if it's really meant for him, and she smiles, warming the moment, and tells him yes, it is. She tells him that without his help, that remote village would have collapsed for good. Bursting with joy, he blurts out nonstop thanks, then admits, yeah, he wasn't being weird, he was just starving. As he bolts away, she can't help thinking the village is packed with nothing but miserable troublemakers. But she points out the brutal truth. Magna is the only alchemist they've got, and the only one keeping their youth alive. Magna, fueled up again, vows to keep pushing, because he's doing it for the village. He feels reborn because he finally realizes real people out there don't just tolerate him, they genuinely appreciate him. Once the chief is gone, his face snaps into a cold, calculating mask. As Magna pushes deeper into the woods foraging, he suddenly jerks awake. He realizes he's dozed off. He sprints back toward the village, panic buzzing because he can't be late again. He's spiraling over the thought that shutting down the clinic will just unleash even more complaints. As he heads toward the village plaza, he freezes, because he's not expecting to find a crowd of figures waiting there. He can't stop wondering who on earth would show up in the plaza this late. From behind the cover, he peeks out and spots the chief standing there, right beside a mysterious masked man. The masked man leans in and raves about how insanely good the recovery potion is. The chief rattles off the options, vitality potions among them, and then demands payment right on the spot. Magna's eyes fly wide as pure shock hits him like a lightning bolt. He spots the potion crates he prescribed for the villagers right away. The masked man puts a jaw-dropping price on the whole lot, 5 million G. The chief's face is swallowed by a dark, menacing shadow that screams greed. She snaps him back to reality. War in the West is sending medicine prices through the roof. She leans in, eyes blazing, and demands, does he really want to cut her out for good? The man blurts out a quick apology, then thrusts his offer back up, 5 million G. The chief smirks and nods, taking the new price like he just won. She can't stop herself. She blurts out how insanely fast that alchemist can crank out results. A shadowy figure looms out of the dark and slides a chilling offer to buy the young man's goods. The young man freezes with pure stomach-dropping terror at the terrifying idea. Magna strides forward with clenched focus, every step screaming determination. His face twists into a silent, raging pain scream, pure frustration with nowhere to go. His worn, pointed boots scrape the ground and fling up a trail of dust as he charges ahead. He charges through a tight gap between the trees, driven by pure purpose. A black carriage growls forward down a dusty road, still roaring on toward its next destination. A shadowy sealed carriage rattles down a winding road through the woods, hauling two robed figures in ominous silence. Inside, the younger masked guy leans in and quizzes his partner, how do you get potion ingredients that are this perfect? The older figure scoffs, daring him to think he's using common stones and plain grass. He snaps at his companion, saying only an ignorant fool could try to do proper alchemy with something like that. A vivid illustration shows a log getting reshaped into planks, and suddenly alchemy feels real, like magic that rebuilds matter from the ground up. The lesson keeps going and it throws a wild truth at you. Living things are born with a natural, almost magical kind of resistance. So alchemists have to rely on special magic materials with super low resistance. A blazing symbol flashes across the room, as he declares that these rare, insanely expensive materials are locked up and monopolized by the Alchemy Association. The younger alchemist can't help but wonder, does his partner have a secret trick to snag all these materials? The older man waves the question off and flat out declares that all that matters is whether they can turn a profit. Their carriage rolls up to a quiet village under the cover of night, with a lone church perched on a hill like a silent watcher. In a jam-packed workshop, a voice erupts with shock like, no way. A devastated Magna finally realizes the village chief has been secretly hoarding every potion he brewed for everyone. Gripping his head, he finally gets it, why the village's potion drinking was so wildly high. A chilling thought slams into his mind, wait, he's not even part of the official Alchemy Association. A guillotine image slams onto the screen as he finally realizes that selling illegal, unsanctioned goods is a capital offense. That chief's sinister smirk keeps flashing in his mind as the truth hits him. He's been an unwitting accomplice the whole time. He wrestles with his gut, debating whether to report the crime, because he knows deep down there's no way he can keep going like this. Utterly crushed, Magna crumples onto his desk, drowning in the horror of his doomed predicament. He whispers that everything is falling apart, with his face shoved deep in his hands. Terror grips him as he remembers it. Every bone in him only wanted one thing: the village needed him, and that was the whole reason he kept going. A flash of a gleaming cross-shaped pendant crashes into his mind like a lightning bolt. He remembers clinging to that pendant, and his mind spins as the betrayal hits like a gut punch. A voice from his past rings in his head, calling him Magna and declaring him a genius. A flashback kicks in. A younger Magna stands with his teacher, a nun, on a windy, windswept hill. His teacher stares in disbelief, because at his age he's already controlling magic with terrifying precision. A beaming young Magna holds up a tiny, jaw-dropping metallic sculpture of a woman like it's the proudest trophy in the world. With hands steady as stone, he cradles the shimmering figurine he just pulled out of thin air. His teacher drops to her knees and begs him to leave the village for the city when he's older. She flat out refuses to let his genius go to waste and pushes him to join the Alchemy Association. Young Magna clutches his creation to his chest and vows to stay behind to help his teacher. He thrusts the tiny statue toward her, offering it like a piece of his heart. His teacher's eyes soften. She tells him that her kind words are more than enough on their own. A pendant flashes as she leans in and tells him he's way more than just his kindness. She drops to her knees in front of him, urging him to put his own well-being first. She slowly lifts that cross-shaped pendant and slips it onto his neck like a vow. She tells you clear as day, never trade a young person's future just to coddle an old one. Up on the hill, she leans in and tells him the world is enormous, and that he'll land his true purpose for sure. She cups his head in her hand and promises him he'll find exactly what he wants to do. Right now, Magna clutches that pendant, then her voice crashes through his memories like it never left. He tightens his fist and whispers, "I get it now," finally understanding what she meant. A burst of open sky explodes into view, and you can feel his freedom click into place, resolve setting like steel. His boots thud onto a dusty path, and the moment he feels it, he's ready. He's about to launch into his journey. He trudges through the forest, vows to head for the city, and can't stop wondering what he'll do once he gets there. He frets over whether he can make something of himself in a brand new town where he knows absolutely nobody. That sharp little glint in his eyes screams one thing: he's locked in, chasing the truth of what he really wants to do. His mind snaps to pieces when a piercing scream tears through the trees. The camera tilts up through the branches, hunting down the treetops where that sound is coming from. Chaos erupts as goblins swarm a carriage and tear into it like a living nightmare. Grotesque goblins, driven by a hulking hobgoblin, surged forward as a pack with crude weapons came charging. A terrified merchant in a bandana drips with sweat as he watches the assault unfold. A blonde warrior snarls through clenched teeth as a goblin's claw bites into her arm. Her red-haired companion is bleeding too, clutching her arm as pain shoots through her. The two adventurers unleash a brutal cross-edge slash and then smash back with a thunderous kick. Even with their talent, they get hemmed in battling while fresh bodies of fallen goblins pile all around them. Lucia, the blonde adventurer, lets out a desperate cry. "We're done, this is where we die." Her companion Liz snaps in a burst of fury. "You're the one who suggested ditching the carriage and running." Lucia shrieks that if they don't guard that cargo with their lives, they'll never see a single payment. Liz fires back, demanding what matters more, then points straight at the truth. Their lives are the real currency. A terrified merchant screams a last-second warning to the girls. Liz gets ambushed from behind by a goblin that lunges at her with a knife. Lucia tears through the silence, screaming her sister's name like her life depends on it. The two sisters are boxed in from every direction, and it feels like the crushing tide is about to swallow them whole. Liz screams for her older sister, panic spiking through her in an instant. A goblin's crude weapon slams down toward Lucia's head, like it's set to end everything in one hit. Magna bursts onto the scene and shoves Lucia out of the way just as the goblin's attack starts cutting. Blood splashes fast. Magna lands like a hero, locks eyes with a stunned Lucia and grins, "I barely made it right on time." Lucia freezes in stunned disbelief, staring at the unexpected savior who just changed everything. She shoots him a question as he rises up to square off with the enemy. Magna coolly shoots back that they can trade introductions later. Right now, they've got goblins to take down. The last goblins snap their cruel, hate-filled stare at the newcomer. Magna didn't flinch. He stared down the charging horde and slid his hand to his hip, ready to unleash whatever came next. His hand clamps down on the ornate grip of one of his pistols. He yanks out two long-barreled pistols and grips one in each hand, like he's done it 1,000 times before. Liz jerks back in shock, blurting out that he's actually firing up two pistols at once. Magna rips off a synchronized volley at once, and the pistols roar like thunder as power bursts out. Liz can't shake the thought it's impossible. There's no way he'll squeeze in a reload against all of them. In a blink, the whole goblin horde collapses, each one riddled by deadly shots until the ground goes silent. Lucia and Liz now stared, baffled. How in the world was he blasting shots in rapid fire without ever reloading? The merchant's jaw drops, completely stunned by what he's seeing on display. Magna fires his shot and flips his alchemy on at the exact same moment. A transmutation circle erupts in glowing light as he shows off his one-of-a-kind ability. He cracks it wide open. The stuff for his bullets doesn't come from nowhere. He pulls it straight from the dirt right under his feet. At that exact moment, he rips the building blocks of gunpowder straight out of the air around him. A flashback rips open the past, showing a desperate young Magna getting shoved into alchemy even though he has no real materials to make it work. He remembers throwing himself into the moment, using his own body as the spark to make the impossible finally happen. That was how he crushed the shortage of materials, pure, top-tier alchemy at its best. His teacher's voice keeps ringing in his head, daring him to someday turn stone into gold. Right now, he shouts the name of his perfected art, golden transmutation. An ogre-like monster roars in triumph, standing over a brutal field littered with slaughtered goblins. The beast clenched its massive club, and a grin of grim satisfaction stretched across its face. With a thunderous roar, the behemoth barrels across the battlefield, smashing straight ahead. Magna drops to his knees and unleashes a blinding barrage from his dual pistols. Bullets snapped and ricocheted off the monster's thick hind like they were bouncing off stone. Lucia shrieks that her puny bullets can't even slow the creature down. She screams at him to run as the monster towers over him, poised to crush him. The monster's gnarled hand tightens around its club, readying itself for the final, crushing strike. Magna twists out of the way with jaw-dropping agility as the monster's foot crashes into the ground inches from him. Crouched there, he assumes his golden transmutation has no favorites. It doesn't care what the material is. As his alchemy mixes with the monster's blood, the creature's back tears open, and violent spikes burst from deep inside. Noir drops to the ground like a shadow, landing cleanly with his back still turned on the defeated beast. That hulking, ogre-like nightmare lies there twitching on the ground, its whole body pinned through by a brutal storm of jagged black spikes. A blonde-fanged girl freezes in total disbelief, staring at the creature like, how in the world did swords end up inside you? Beside her, the red-haired girl could barely breathe. One stunned word slipped out as she stared at the unbelievable sight. Noir releases a soft, exhausted sigh, and you can feel the battle's tension finally drain out of him. He strides up to the injured man they just pulled to safety and demands to know, are you okay? The man blurts out his gratitude again and again, stunned that the young alchemist just saved his life. He adds that Noir stepped in, and his 2 daughters are safe too. Noir whips around to the 2 girls and tells them he's switching into healer mode. He's going to treat their injuries now. He yanks 2 ordinary dandelions from the dirt and tells them, hold on just a second. He slips the flowers into 2 empty test tubes and readies himself for his next alchemy. In a burst of gold and blazing light, he transmutes those weeds into powerful recovery potions. The miraculous concoctions start swirling, and a glowing liquid bursts through the mix like living light. The rescued man just freezes in shock, eyes wide as he blurts, wait, did I really brew potions from weeds anyone could have found? The red-haired girl grabs the vial with a grateful smile, then promises she'll pay for it right away. As her blonde companion slurps her potion, Noir leans in and tells them, don't worry, no payment is needed. A soft smile flickers across his lips as he keeps talking, like he already knows what's coming next. He tells them, I can't take a single coin, I'm an unlicensed alchemist and the law won't let me. Determined not to let her kindness go unnoticed, the blonde girl clamps onto his hand with unshakable certainty. She won't let it slide. If he's going to be like that, then he has to give her a chance to thank him the right way. Her face lights up with a radiant smile as she rushes to thank her big brother for saving her. Noir freezes, stunned by how real and crushing her gratitude hits, like a tidal wave. A faint, knowing smirk curls on his lips as it finally clicks. He gets it, and everything changes. When she asks what's wrong, it hits him. This is exactly what he's been dreaming to do all along. A flashback hit him, his teacher's face, the texture of every word, and it dragged back that burning urge to unleash his power and make people smile. He remembers, crystal clear, that this is exactly why he begged his teacher to teach him alchemy in the first place. His new dream is crystal clear. He's going to earn that official alchemist license and save as many people as he possibly can. The moment he's finally safe, the rescued man blurts out, I've really met a genius alchemist today. He leaned in and grilled Noir and the girls. So are you headed to that nearby town or what? Noir wastes no time. He promises himself he's heading to the Alchemists Guild to snag the license. To show his gratitude, the man waves them in and whisks them to town in his horse-drawn cart. Noir gladly takes the offer, smiling and saying it would be a huge help. The blonde girl beams as she steps up for guard duty, and with Noir keeping watch, she feels completely safe. Her red-haired companion grins and reminds her, guarding is literally their real job. The The man bursts into hearty laughter, completely agreeing that protection, yeah, that's exactly their job. The blonde girl flashes a playful tongue-out grin, like she's just unlocked a whole new level of confidence. In Noir's bleak home village, an eerie dread tightens the air around the church. The church's heavy wooden door gets slammed so hard it bursts into splinters. Inside, enraged villagers roar that they can't find that bastard anywhere. The village chief stares in disbelief. Every last bit of gold plus his travel sack is gone. She scowls and mutters that the brat finally clocked he'd been played, then bolted before anyone could stop him. The villagers howl in panic, begging, "What do we do now? Our life of luxury is gone." Cold rage tightens her chest as the chief measures the narrow path ahead, plotting her next move. She rips open a hidden chest, certain that the boy's only option left is to head straight into town. A sinister thought flickers in her mind as she spies the hidden contents tucked beneath her chest. She whips out a stash of power potions and snarls that they'll hunt him down and drag him into captivity. She snaps orders, sending her menacing thugs to grab 5 bottles of the potion apiece. A pack of shadowy villagers snatched up their greedy share of those powerful concoctions. They pop the vials open and gulp them down, and the chief rips into the boy's betrayal like a storm that won't stop. She shrieks that he turned his back on the weak, elderly people who raised him, like that abandonment wasn't unforgivable. The potions slam through the villager's veins like lightning, raw and unstoppable. His fist clenches so hard his muscles jump, and the chief roars at the lack of discipline in today's youth. The villager's body twists in grotesque agony as he blasts out a feral, inhuman roar. The chief's side glints with pure malice as he snarls that it's the young's duty to bow and serve their elders. Meanwhile, the crew bursts into the massive labyrinth city of Kuramorn, stunned by how huge it is. Right ahead of them looms the magnificent Kuramuran branch of the Alchemist Guild. Their horse-drawn cart rolls up to a towering castle-like stone building that just screams power. The two girls stare up in pure awe, comparing that massive structure to a royal castle. The man lays it out plain. The guild controls the entire market for magic potions and tools. Noir he grins and calls himself lucky, because right now the guild is running temporary recruitment exams. Noir's eyes lock in the moment they hear about a temporary exam, an opening flares in his mind. The man leans in and explains how the war raging in the West shattered the workforce, leaving everyone desperate for manpower. Noir remembers that shady merchant in his village. He said the exact same thing. He stands in front of the guild, bracing to step off and launch his brand new life. He flashes a bright, heartfelt grin and thanks his friends for coming to see him off. From the cart, his friends erupted with loud, hype-filled cheers, firing him up for the exam that's about to hit. He flashes a goodbye, and the cart and his friends are riding clings to the horizon before shrinking into the distance. Tugged by their kindness, he vows to strike gold and make them proud, no matter what it takes. He strides toward the towering guild hall, like he's ripping his old life out by the roots. He strides up to the official and lays out his whole purpose, ready to take the employment exam. The official meets his gaze with a polished, polite smile, then gives him a proper nod like, "You're one of the examinees." Before he even steps into the examination home, he's ordered to fill out a form, dumping all his details first. He zeroes in and slams out the application like his entire future depends on it. He storms up to the official and hands over the finished form. Right in front of that colossal gate, he clenched his resolve, cutting every tie and swearing he'd finally become a real alchemist. He barrels into a massive, buzzing workshop packed with dozens of other alchemists. Clutching his exam number, he spots his assigned station, number 32. He's staring in awe at the exam's high-end professional alchemy set, absolutely blown away by the quality. He can't stop remembering his master's ancient, battered cauldron, so worn down it always felt like it was about to snap in half. With tools this sharp, he's so confident he can step up his game and nail every move with razor-precise precision. He watches the other candidates whip out their top-tier, personalized high-end gear and start setting up like it's a show. A sudden thought hits him as he watches the other alchemists in the room. He glances at the crowd and stops. Every single person in it is an alchemist just like him. A sharp wave of unease crashes into him. He's never crossed paths with any alchemist besides his own master. He spots a woman standing there with a legendary sage's staff and a whole load of top-tier gear that screams serious power. Meanwhile, everyone else is scrambling to build these crazy, overcomplicated personal gadgets just to boost their own work. He remembers walking out of the graduating school section and leaving it on his application totally blank. Panic crashes over him the moment he realizes just how badly he's outmatched. That giant wall clock thumped out loud, steady ticks, each one punching his chest as his worry kept swelling. A razor-sharp voice slices through the air, shouting that time's up. Then the provisional exam is starting right now. Jolted out of his thoughts, he snaps his eyes up just as the examiner starts briefing her. The glasses-wearing examiner barks at every candidate to yank open the wooden box sitting at their station. She leans in and tells them the exam subject is hiding inside the box. His eyes fly wide as he leans in, and he mutters in stunned disbelief at what he finds inside. Inside that box, a wild bundle of leafy greens waits, and he instantly locks eyes with it, recognizing it at once. He blurts out that it's a heal leaf, but then he's thrown off. How can it have such a high essence and yet taste so bad? He shoots a glare at another candidate, and both of them stare at the leaves like they've just tasted something disgusting. A furious woman rants that she's never even seen B-rank stuff looking this wrecked, until now, and it's driving her insane. Another candidate jumps in and roars that the material is basically just a plain old weed. Noir gets swallowed by the collective confusion, staring at the test like, what's the real purpose here? A stern woman with glasses leans in and snaps that these aren't standard materials at all. They're the kind people usually toss away. With everything that's been happening lately, the need for cure potions skyrocketed, way faster than production could keep up. With a grave look on her face, she declares their choice to go with these substandard goods, an exceptional decision, she insists. The examiner points at the alchemy stations and gives them the green light to start using them. And she even lets the candidates pull out whatever personal gear they brought with them. And she gives the green light. She says he can use any tool in the house. Face to face with the sea of alchemists, she declares that this right here is the full exam. One candidate hits rock bottom and snaps, they never taught me how to do alchemy on garbage. The examiner's ice-cold mind snaps to one conclusion. She doesn't need talkers, she needs combat-ready alchemists. A young candidate in a hat snaps into panic, convinced there's no way he can ever brew a potion from this. Yet another alchemist snaps and throws in the towel, declaring, I'm done, I'm going home. Magna can't help but stare at the chaos. He's totally confused as everyone starts complaining about the materials, and he just doesn't get what's going on. He can't believe they'd toss the exam away just because of this. A nearby candidate spots it and grins, sure, it's busted up, but it's way easier to work with than those pesky weeds. With a top-notch alchemy station like this, he's sure the job is finally within reach. A wild idea hits Magna like lightning. He decides he'll craft a legendary elixir no one else can make. He clutches the wilted herbs in his hand, eyes distant, thoughts spinning in the dark. He weighs his choices, convinced that crafting the cure potion they asked for isn't hopeless. A calm wave of resolve sweeps across his determined face. He decides this chance is too massive to let slip away. After checking the potions back to back, he declares the elixir the clear winner, no doubt about it. He stands his ground at his station, ready to prove, once and for all, that his real power is about to hit. With fresh fire in his chest, he declares, I'm going all out, no holding back. The camera sweeps across the examination hall's cold stone exterior. While the others stay busy, every alchemist slips back to their own station and hammers out their work. Suddenly, a man barges into the hall, seething with rage, and shouts out his demands. Klaus, the head examiner, whips around and demands to know what's going on. The man flies into a rage, demanding to know why a lowly commoner alchemist was even allowed to sit for the exam. Klaus leans in and asks if it's even a problem, then quickly explains they had to recruit, no matter who they came from. He snaps back in a rage, insisting that his lack of academic background is the whole problem. Klaus dips her head a little, quietly apologizing as the whole situation hangs in the air. Fuming, the examiner snarls, "Where is the candidate?" and orders him dragged out on the spot. Klaus calmly gestures straight at Magna like, "See that? I'm telling you right there." She spots him checking number 32. Magnet spins around with a grin, cheerfully blurting out that he's done with his work. He beams as he holds up a bottle, proudly announcing that he's brewed an elixir. Klaus freezes in disbelief, mouth hanging open as he blurts elixir, like the word won't make sense. Magna grins and blurts out that he just wanted to forge the absolute best thing ever, all thanks to those top-notch tools. Rage flashes in the examiner's eyes as he demands the potion. Then Magna grins and shoves it right into his hands. The examiner kicks on his appraisal ability, and a blazing magical symbol lights up in his eye. His spell verifies it. This potion is the real deal, an elixir that restores every last drop of health and magic completely. The examiner's face hard freezes with pure disbelief as the reality finally hits him. He mutters under his breath, swearing this elixir is the real deal. With a sudden lunge, he yanks the cap off and blasts the bottle's pressure loose. Rage surged through him, and he slammed the bottle hard against the floor. Magna gets left speechless, soaked, shaking, and absolutely horrified by the sudden burst of violence. The examiner snaps on him, furious, demanding to know if he's making fun of them. He blasts Magna, accusing him of sneaking the elixir along, and then declares it's impossible to have made it. He explodes with fury, ordering the cheater seized and dragged out on the spot. Guards rush in like a storm, yanking a panicked Magna by the arms the moment they see him. Magna is on his knees, begging with all he's got, swearing up and down that he truly made it from the materials they gave him. He offers to whip up another one, but the examiner shuts him down fast, calling him just plain annoying. The examiner spits out that it was all his fault for ever letting some lowly commoner into the building. With a venom-filled glare, he snaps at Magnet to never show his face again. Those massive double doors of the workshop slam shut with a thunderclap, then Magna's left standing alone outside. He drops to his knees on the cold stone floor, and his hopes get crushed to nothing. He can't believe they still won't trust him, even after he's used their own materials. He can't shake the thought that they pushed him aside for a reason far bigger than just his background. He still remembers the jolt of disconnect when he watched the other candidates react to the herbs. The examiner's rage explodes in his mind, and his confusion only deepens. All alone on his knees, he finally clicks, turning those materials into an elixir. That's not normal at all. He clutches his master's words in his mind, thinking maybe, just maybe, he can turn the impossible into gold. He'd never seen how other alchemists did it, so he had nothing to compare it to, no benchmark, no clue, just a mystery. He grips his chest, and a brutal realization finally hits him, hard enough to make him stagger. He can't help but wonder, was he way more incredible than he ever dared to imagine? He lets out a hollow, defeated laugh, like the revelation just knocked the air out of him. A grim look hardens his face as he can't stop thinking about what this means for him from here on out. He finally gets it. His one-of-a-kind alchemy is exactly why they shun him like he's got no worth. With his spirit crushed, he doesn't know where to turn, until a pair of shoes suddenly shows up in front of him. A bright, cheerful girl with a halo and her companion lock eyes on him. Then they blurt his name and call out for him. Magna snapped his gaze up and instantly spotted the two girls, Lashy and Liz. Lucia grins and asks if he's already done with his exam. Liz grins, totally convinced that if anyone can pull off a move like Magna, they'll pass with zero doubt. With a grimacing smile, Magna finally confesses that he actually messed up. The girls freeze in shock, and the only thing they can manage is one stunned question: why did this happen? Liz can't stop wondering, what brutal exam could ever catch someone as skilled as Magna off guard? Magna glances off to the side and shrugs it off, telling everyone the test was, shockingly, way simpler than they thought. The three of them huddle on the cobblestone path, drilling into why he failed. Lucia leans in, eyes locked on him, drinking every word with a grim, focused stare. Liz explodes in outrage, yelling that getting kicked out just for being a commoner is flat-out unforgivable. Lucia clicks into what this really means. He's officially out of a job, and the whole plan he had in motion just blew up in his face. Magna can only squeeze out a sharp pain groan, and that sound confirms her deduction. Lucia's eyes lit up. Like the second she had a brilliant idea, her whole face just shone. She snatches her sister's arm and yanks her in close, like she can't afford to let her get away. With a wild, fanged grin, she dares him to turn this into a real adventure together. Magna's jaw drops when that sudden, life-flipping proposal hits him out of nowhere. Liz protests the sudden turn, but Lucia slams the brakes on doubt and swears Magna will be a rock-solid ally. She tosses out another reason for that sudden idea, like it's the final piece of a puzzle. Winking at Magna, she smirks and says being with her is gonna be way more fun than hanging around those gloomy people. Magna stands frozen in shock, swept up in the wild storm of her energy. Liz blushes, darts off, and keeps apologizing for her sister's explosive outburst. She tells Magna to stop fretting about her feelings. Magna weighs Lucia's words, and deep down he's realizing she might be right. He finally snaps out of it and realizes he was dead wrong. He's got worth, and he never deserved to call himself worthless. He can still picture every face of the people who believed in him and backed him up when it mattered. He spun toward them and demanded, "Will you really let me join your party?" Liz is still reeling, blurting, "Are you sure?" after he just laid out his plan to join the association. Magna flashes a soft smile and seals his choice with a clear, confident yes. Lucia bursts into a huge, joyful grin, quizzing him like, "Wait, are you serious?" Magna straight up tells everyone that going on adventures isn't just fun. It's a vital job that keeps society moving. With a sharp, knowing glance, Lucia leans in and tells Liz that sticking together is going to be way more fun. Lucia barrels into Magna, slams him to the ground, and roars out this thunderous welcome like it's the start of a war. Red-hot with humiliation at what her sister just did, Liz snaps and screams her sister's name, demanding she stop. Liz keeps firing off frantic scolds, snarling at her older sister that her conduct is shameless. With everything she's got, Liz strains to pry her gleeful sister off the pinned, stunned Magna. Lucia flashes a smug grin and vows she'll never let go of her brand new human healer target. Crushed under the chaos, Magna shuts his eyes and realizes this is exactly how his wild life as an adventurer first kicked off. Inside the Alchemist Association, everyone's buzzing over the wreckage of that last employment exam. A grizzled examiner stared in grim silence and finally admitted it. Only 2 out of more than 50 candidates made it. The female proctor snaps that most of the examinees couldn't even channel magic into the materials. She spells it out, they don't have the core technique needed to bring a material's magic resistance down. A silent figure in a hooded cloak swallows their nerves and blurts out a shaky call, desperate to catch the proctor's eye. With a shaky, nervous look, she blurts out her name, examinee number 31. The proctor snaps her head around, eyes blazing, and tells the candidate straight up that she already gave them the results. The candidate snaps that the proctor is dead wrong about what really happened. With total conviction, she swears up and down that the guy who sat next to her didn't cheat. The proctor presses her, asking if she's talking about that common girl from the countryside. Down she stared, stunned. She could barely accept what she'd just witnessed with her own eyes. She kicks off her story, spilling the unbelievable stuff that happened with that man. In a flashback, Magna blazes onto the scene and declares he forged a legendary panacea using nothing but humble test materials. The candidate blurts out that the mind-blowing sight left her so stunned she couldn't find the words to speak up in that moment. The grizzled examiner snorts, and his contempt-filled face turns into a hard sneer as he dismisses the claim as total nonsense. He rattles off the panacea's impossible shopping list: dragons, tears, and even ethereum dust, like they're the only things that could save anyone. And then he drops the real truth. Before anything else, the lost art of golden alchemy is the one thing you have to have to make it. Rage twists the examiner's face as he snarls that there's no other way to forge a panacea. Fury flares in his eyes as he calls Magna's claim nothing more than a swindler's brag, turning stone to gold. Magna's flawless, crystal-bright bottle of creation rests on the examination table, sparkling like it's daring anyone to touch it. Enraged, the examiner swore he'd rip the boy's deception wide open so everyone could see the truth. He'd already declared with total confidence that the Alchemist Association has a foolproof plan to stop that kind of fraud. He poured in a scorching sands of time catalyst, and the potion snapped back into its original ingredients. The examiner's face contorts with pure shock, like he can't even believe what he's seeing. The female proctor goes completely speechless, and a bead of sweat slides down her face. All the other examinees in the hall freeze with their mouths hanging open, absolutely stunned by what just happened. The cloaked candidate and her friends stared ahead, frozen in total disbelief, not a word escaping their mouths. The candidate replays her own shock in her mind, yanking her hat low and covering her face, unable to believe what just happened. The potion didn't snap back to some fancy rare ingredients. It rolled right back to the plain heel leaf they used in the test. The proctor and a second candidate went hunting for ethereum's dragon tears, and found nothing, absolutely nowhere. The grizzled examiner stands frozen, words trapped in his throat as his mind scrambles to accept the impossible truth. He panics and hammers the question in his head: did his own appraisal spell really fail? But deep down he knows that kind of basic magic never misses. He still remembers that rock-solid moment when he first knew with total certainty the potion was the real cure-all. Panic clenched his chest, and his mind latched onto the sands of time catalyst, praying it hadn't been flawed. He clutches that tiny ornate vial, and his mind races like it's hunting for any rational reason. He pushes that idea aside, because he knows it was personally crafted by the legendary Professor Weissman. The examiner's eyes widen as horror crashes in. There's no way the catalyst could have a flaw like this. It narrows down to one horrifying thought, and it won't stop haunting him. He can't shake the question: did that kid really forge a panacea out of those trashy, half-broken materials? The examiner's legs start to shake, then suddenly betray him and drop out from under his feet. He crumples onto the cold stone floor, completely crushed by the shocking revelation. Staring at the empty spot where Magnus vanished, he erupts in a furious scream, demanding to know what that man really is. Magnus strides beside his fresh companions, and a sly, knowing grin curls right at the corner of his lips. Adventurers prove they can do it all, taking jobs from everyday citizens and the state alike, no matter who asks. They're tasked with shielding crucial people, top-tier bodyguards who step in fast and never let anyone get close. They dive into terrifying missions, hunting down brutal monsters that are wreaking havoc across the land. Hunting lost treasure means diving into deep, treacherous dungeons, because that part of the job is non-negotiable. Sometimes their big mission starts with something humble, helping with everyday chores around the house. After joining the Guild Cat's Paw, Magna kicks off a brand new life and dives headfirst into being an adventurer. As a total rookie, his adventure kicks off not in some dungeon, but in the calm, quiet mountains. Being stuck at the one-star bottom rung means he and his party can't touch the flashy, high-profile jobs, at least not yet. Their very first official quest, they're thrown straight into the chaos of a mountain village's fruit orchard, helping with the harvest. Magna sinks onto a stool, accepting the simple job of helping with the harvest. He shoots his gaze upward when a cheerful voice calls his name, telling him to take a good look at how amazing it is. Lucia beamed and pointed at a gigantic barrel, shouting that she'd hauled in enough mouthwatering apples to fill the whole thing. With a goofy little drool, she grins and teases, asking if she can have just one of those mouth-watering fruits. Liz shoots her a sharp look and reminds her, plain and simple, they already agreed not to touch the apples. A gentle-looking farmer catches the whole thing, then leans in and tells them, don't sweat it, everything's going to be okay. Lucia's eyes lit up like fireworks the second the farmers granted her permission. The farmer grins and tells everyone this year's harvest is so bountiful they can eat without a single worry. With a warm, grateful smile, Magna accepts the kind offer without hesitation and takes an apple. He snaps off a crisp bite as his two buddies grin and chomp away at their own apples. He realizes the people here are genuinely kind, and that warmth finally melts the suspicion and fatigue weighing on his chest. His mind slips back to that towering stone fortress of the Adventurers Guild in Kremlin City. The guild hall towers high and hums with life, packed floor after floor with fresh adventures waiting to kick off. He vividly recalls standing right in front of the main counter, ready to finish his registration. The pleasant guild receptionist tore through his paperwork, and every page checked out perfectly. For the final step, she demanded a single drop of his blood to forge his guild card. Magna didn't know what a guild card was, so she turned to her and demanded an explanation. The receptionist said it's basically a magic ID, one that scans an adventurer's status and shows it right there on the display. She pointed out that your adventurer's guild rank tracks your level exactly, so she urged everyone to update it every single year. Magna leaned in and demanded to know what guild rank actually meant. The receptionist broke down the whole 1 to 5-star rating system, slotting each adventurer's level and past achievements into the right tier. She made it crystal clear, this was a safety system built to stop adventurers from stumbling into quests that were doomed from the start. Hitting that 5-star peak doesn't just boost her reputation, it cranks her social status sky high and pulls in fancy invitations from nobles. She smiled sweetly and told him to stay calm, because climbing just one single star rank takes an average of 10 long years. Magna felt completely swamped thinking, this is one long, drawn-out speech. His foot kept drumming on the floor, impatient as he soaked up every last detail. He'd quietly nodded along, agreeing with her, yeah, this really was one hell of a long story. The receptionist sealed everything up and told him, your official guild card will be ready in about 10 days. Back in the present at the guild hall, Magna grins, finally done with the registration. He marches up to his crew and Liz shoots a question, so did you find a quest worth taking yet? Lucia is splayed dramatically across the table like she's completely checked out, while Liz leans in and scans the papers. Lucia rants that with a 1-star party, there's not a single decent, profitable job to be found. Liz earnestly says they can't afford to be choosy, they've got to take whatever work they can get. She whips her gaze to Magna, worry shaking her voice as she demands, are you really sure you want to join our guild? Liz basically tells him, with your talent, you could slip right into a top-tier, high-prestige party in no time. Magna leans in and gently reminds her that they were the ones who invited him, then teases her with, so, you already don't like him. Flustered, Liz whips her head side to side, flails her hands, yelling no, absolutely not, as she insists she's thrilled to her core. Their chat gets yanked to a halt when Lucia snaps upright, breathless, shouting that she's just stumbled on something incredible. She shoves a quest flyer into their hands, eyes wide with shock and pure thrill, and blurts out, are you telling me this isn't insane? The flyer screams a 1-star harvest gig with an insane payday, 500,000 gold. Magnus buckled under disbelief, every alarm in his head screaming that this quest was nothing but a total fraud. A fanged blonde lucha girl bursts out, shouting that this quest's reward is 50 times bigger than the last one. Magna, her dark-haired companion, nods and says the reward sounds unreal, then turns to Liz like, so what do you think? Liz can't stop grinning. She insists they have to snap up that incredible offer right now, before anyone else beats them to it. Magna is totally stunned that they're throwing themselves into this suspicious quest, with zero hesitation. He leans in and demands, so you're really serious, then calls out how the quest description reeks of something shady. Lucha brushes off his worries and tells him to stare hard at the flyer in her hand. She points at a hashtag that screams the job comes from a truly ethical employer. Magna can't shake his suspicion, because if a job is really that good, it shouldn't have to brag about itself like that. Liz calmly insists the Adventurers Guild will weed out any job that's truly deadly. She whips around to the guild's receptionist, demanding a straight answer to confirm her gut feeling. The receptionist grins and straight up, confirms the guild has checked every client and reward with a fine-tooth comb. Lucha erupts in triumphant cheers, hoisting the flyer high and declaring loud and proud that they're taking the job. Magna's gloved hand reaches up and plucks a perfectly gleaming apple straight from the branch. He perches on a stool and starts ripping apples from the branches in a sun-soaked orchard. With an apple gripped in his hand, he can't help thinking, maybe he's been way too careful for no reason. His thoughts yank him back to the brutal memories haunting his old village. He feels it the second he steps in, this place is different, way less suffocating, and it's all because those other young people are here. His eyes snap into focus the moment he spots something creepy hiding in plain sight among the villagers. He watches the villagers grin, but when he locks eyes with one woman, a flash of pain slips through her smile. The peaceful harvest keeps rolling along, but something feels off. Magnetic suspicion starts to bloom. A tight close-up hits, his eye narrows, and a hairline crack slices straight through the perfect mask. A villager grins and waves from afar, shouting bright hellos to the adventurers as they close in. He drags them to the village chief's house for a report, and a special treat waiting right after. Lucha's eyes flare with pure joy as she bursts out about that sweet promise of apple pie. Liz politely pushes back, insisting the generous pay is reward enough. Lucha lunges for her sister, pleading that they can't blow this once-in-a-lifetime shot. She beams and chirps that kids shouldn't act so formal, especially when the client's just offering. She can't wait, she pushes Magna to hurry and keeps begging him to follow them straight to the chief's house. Magna wears a grim look, then quietly nods and agrees to tag along with them. They press on toward a cozy, rustic little house, tucked deep in a snowy wonderland where the trees stand like silent guardians. Inside, the house feels humble, just a plain wooden table and a scattering of simple kitchenware. Pots and pans swing from the old wooden beams above the rustic kitchen. An elderly man with a warm smile steps forward and introduces himself, Zach, the village chief. He tells them that the amazing harvest has everyone grinning, yet somehow they're still short on hands. Magnus' gut screams danger again when he interrogates why the payout for simple labor is absurdly high. The chief just throws it back with a crinkled grin, practically bragging that they've got money to burn. A gorgeous, piping hot apple pie lands on the table right in front of the eager luchador. The village chief proudly parades the pie and tea, declaring them the town's proud specialties. He leans in and tells them to savor this small token of their hospitality. Magna's face clenches tight, his suspicion finally catches fire at what he's seeing. His gaze tightens as he kicks on his alchemical analysis, and the power snaps into action. His eyes split the pie apart, turning it into nothing but ordinary pieces, flour, apples, and all the bland details hiding inside. Then comes the final, sinister twist, a black flower, and everyone realizes it's deadly poison. He spots a wild vision, a hand collapsing the poisonous plant as it crumbles straight into the pie filling. He lunges across the table and smacks the food right out of the chief's hand. The chief gasps in terror as the poisoned pie erupts and splatters across his face. Lucha jolts with shock, utterly lost, as Magna suddenly explodes into brutal action. Liz, just as stunned, blurts out Magna's name, because she has absolutely no clue what's going on. Magna crashes his foot into the bench and barks at his crew to rip their weapons out right now. With an ice-cold voice, he declares that the pie is laced with a paralyzing agent. Lucha is left shaking with horror, her face frozen in disbelief. Liz gasps, and in the same breath, her shock hardens into grim understanding of what's happening to them. The chief and his wife huddle on the floor, their sweet little smiles cracking into pure terror. Magna towers over them, demanding answers, like he can't move on until they explain why they're treating them so well. The chief's face glistens with sweat as he drops his gaze, fully crushed by defeat. He mutters that everything they did was inevitable, that they had no other option. His fear curdles into raw, desperate fury as he roars at the top of his lungs to get them. The door starts to groan as it cracks open, and a looming outside threat steps into view. Liz's eyes bulge with terror as she realizes they're about to get ambushed. The door slams open with a violent crash, and there, standing in the doorway, is the whole mob. An angry mob of villagers comes rushing in, clutching makeshift farm tools like deadly weapons. 3 adventurers lock their backs together, faces set in grim silence as battle waits right around the corner. The chapter's title page hits you with a tense standoff inside the storehouse. Magna's eyes narrowed into sharp, cold focus the second the fight kicked off. He slams his palm to the floor and blasts his alchemy out in a flash. The first villager who attacks gets launched backward, face first into the air, screaming like they've just seen a nightmare. Mantara Basami yells in pure shock, unable to believe they repelled her that easily. A glowing transmutation circle blooms on the floor right beneath where Magna's hand touches down. He calmly declares that he's using his alchemy to forge a barrier. Now the room is packed everywhere with bear traps, and those traps slam shut between the adventurers and the mob. The chief groans in defeat, crumpled on the floor as Magna comes charging in. Magna snaps, demanding answers. Why were they poisoned, while his pistol stays locked on the chief. His stare turns ice cold as he demands to know whether this mess ties back to the village's missing children. The villagers choke on a gasp as it hits them all at once, shock and realization rippling through the crowd. Lucha blurts out that she didn't even realize the kids were gone. The chief has his eyes slammed shut, and the secret presses down on him like a crushing weight. He snaps his eyes open, and pure grim certainty hardens across his face. Liz confirms it, since they showed up not one kid has crossed their path. The chief straight up confirms it, telling them their suspicions are dead right. A young woman gasps the chief's title in disbelief, her horror exploding in her voice. The chief declares there's no point in hiding the truth anymore. He barks an order at his men, drop those farm tool weapons right now. He drops a heavy sigh, then braces himself, ready to spill the whole truth. He kicks off the recap by telling you how a week ago, a demon tamer came for them and launched the attack. Their local militia didn't stand a chance against the monsters. One minute they were fighting, the next they were being cut down in seconds. Amid the chaos, every last one of the village's children got snatched away. The villagers were forced to drop to their knees and bow low before the victorious demon who'd just taken the mayor's place. The tamer slammed down his cold, cruel terms, no mercy, just rules for the kids' survival. He sneered and warned that if they couldn't bring back adventures, their kids would end up with nothing but poop. Magna clenches his jaw and snaps that this is exactly why they got targeted. The chief cracks and admits they were stripped of their power, and once they realized they had no choice, they obeyed. He admits that whatever drove them, their actions were unforgivable. He insists that only he should take the punishment for their crime, and he'll shoulder it all alone. The chief clenches his jaw and calls it his burden. He'll take the blame for failing to shield his people. He hands Magna a battered, ornate pistol, daring him to grab it and meet whatever fate comes next. Magna snaps back, refusing to buy it because he just can't see it that way. He comes out swinging, declaring the villagers are the ones truly drowning in suffering. The chief jerks his head up, fully stunned and lost as the adventurer's words hit him like a curveball. Magnus finally realizes the real villains aren't the shadows at all. They're the ones who cooked up this impossible mess. The villagers lock eyes, frozen in stunned silence as this sudden burst of empathy hits them like a wave. Magna whips his head toward his two companions and declares, loud and clear, that he's going to help. The feigned girl Lucha stares in shock at his sudden, ironclad resolve. Her face snaps into a huge, confident grin the moment she gives her booming approval. The battered village chief jolts his gaze upward, stunned as he blurts, "You're serious, you really mean it." Magna slams the plan down. He's determined to take down the demon tamer and haul the kids to safety. A terrified villager yells in pure heartbreak, swearing that no one could pull off something like that. He breathlessly lays out the brutal odds, pointing at the enemy goblins and that towering monster bearing down on them. A woman's voice shakes as she warns them, if they strike back, the kids will be murdered. The chief crumples in defeat and admits he can't save the children by himself. Magna vows he'll conjure a massive new fighting force in the blink of an eye. With laser focus, he erupts, shouting his plan to turn every single one of them into an army. Golden Transmutation, his ultimate skill's name, blazes across the scene like a warning flare. The powerful alchemy kicks off, and the storehouse's wooden floor and stacked barrels melt into swirling light. Metal farm tools and cooking pots get shredded too, pulled apart by the storm of swirling energy. The transmutation rips through the whole house inside and out. Every room turns into raw material. A gigantic, glowing transmutation circle erupts in the room, freezing the stunned villagers in their tracks. A terrified villager screams for help, demanding to know what's happening to them. The building's walls and support beams start to crumble apart right before their eyes. An old man screams in pure terror as magic rips his home apart right in front of him. Another guy freezes in disbelief as the farm tools, simple as they are, get swallowed up right before his eyes. Lucha stares into that spinning whirl of light, jaw dropping as he blurts, "What the heck is happening?" The raw materials twisted and reformed, popping into gleaming new helmets and tough, sturdy wooden shields. Dozens of combat-boosting potions suddenly pop into existence, lined up perfectly and ready to be grabbed and used. As the lights die down, boom, an entire armory bursts into view, packed wall-to-wall with weapons and armor. Lucha's eyes go wide with pure shock as he blurts out that the house has turned into weapons. The villagers can't even blink as their world flips into something impossible right before their eyes. The chief's hands clench around a heavy, freshly forged mace that somehow just appeared there. Magna leans in and says he scavenged every scrap around them, then forged a whole new arsenal from it. With a smug, confident grin, he dares the chief, then asks straight up if victory is still a pipe dream. The village chief's face twisted with despair, then rage slammed back in like thunder. He clenches the mace with all his strength, and even as his hands shake, pure purpose burns brighter than ever. He snaps in agreement with the adventure, saying they're the ones who have paid the highest price. Righteous fury explodes in his voice as he roars that they're the ones trying to crush their enemy. He storms the village square, rallies everyone in seconds, and orders them to grab their brand new arms. Beneath the cold glow of a crescent moon, this brand new army tightens up and readies itself for war. The villagers-turned soldiers surge into battle in one brutal, furious wave, like war itself is about to explode. A hulking beastman freezes in stunned disbelief, as sudden, ruthless resistance snaps into place like it was planned. The villagers unleash a brutal, coordinated assault, and it smashes straight through the monster's shock. From behind, the Magna swoops in and fires a perfectly placed arrow, dropping the creature to the ground. His arrow hits dead center, plunging deep into the monster's head. Lucha turns into pure whirlwind, spinning through the chaos and dropping foes left and right. The demon Tamir froze, seething with questions. How on earth did the villagers manage to hide armor like that? He clenches his teeth and snaps at fate, furious that everything just spiraled into the last place he expected. With grim resolve, he reminds himself that the archdemon is still in his pocket, his ultimate trump card. Magnus towers over the fallen archdemon, staring him down and demanding, "So this is your trump card." The demon tamer erupts into a blood-curdling scream of straight-up, no-lies terror at what he's seeing. Magna coldly orders him to surrender, right now, if he wants to dodge any more injuries. The villain's weapon clatters to the ground as he gets completely crushed, utterly defeated. The village chief and his militia close in on the whimpering, shattered demon tamer. They've got him in custody and his face is drenched in misery, like defeat has already crushed him. He crumples to the ground and his entire will to keep standing just shatters into nothing. Lucha saunters up and flashes a triumphant fang grin, shouting to Magna like he's just won. She and Liz huddle together, grinning like they just clawed the win out of chaos. The village square erupts with joyful sobs and heartfelt reunions as everyone rushes into each other's arms. Magna can't stop thinking about how his first adventure, right in the middle of all that chaos, still turned out to be a total win. A brand new chapter kicks off, ***, soaring rewards in creeping malice. A blonde woman from the guild drops into a deep bow, pouring out a desperate, heartfelt apology. Lucha stared down at him, utterly baffled by that sudden, over-the-top spectacle. The gilded woman tells them she heard the whole incident straight from the village chief. She tells everyone the guild has turned the screws, now they're hitting the village with a lawsuit. Lucha fires off an outraged demand, "Are you really punishing us for helping the villagers?" Magna and Liz solemnly admitted the chief is probably going to get blamed. The guildwoman stands there and misery clings to her face as she watches the adventures unfold. At the counter, she leaned in and promised Magna she'd handle every shaky testimony herself. Lucha barreled in all fired up and demanded, right then and there, that they hand over the 500,000 G reward. Liz stood there, cheeks burning, as her sister's loud outburst hit like a wave. Magna lanes in, thinking the reward will keep the three of them fed for months. The receptionist darts in with a rushed apology, then steps forward and hands over their reward like it's official business. She unveils a mountain of gold and drops the total 3 million G, like a jaw-crushing reveal. The whole party fires back a look, big, wide-eyed, and totally freaking stunned, like they can't believe what they're seeing. Lucha blurted, "Did you mess up the total?" as he stared at the receptionist's numbers. With a sly, knowing smirk, the receptionist leans in and confirms there's zero mistake. That captive demon tamer finally blurts out the horrifying truth. Someone slapped a massive bounty on his head. The trio huddles at the counter, staring down like kids beside a mountain of gold they piled so high it eats the room. Lucha can't shake the disbelief. Somehow the cash is actually theirs for real. The receptionist lanes in and says quests like this are usually reserved for 3-star guilds. She locks eyes with them, determination blazing, and gets ready to launch into a massive, earth-shaking proclamation. She booms that their party, Cat's Palm, just got promoted straight up to a 3-star guild. The camera snaps to the city's tough, multi-story buildings, standing like concrete giants. From a tavern balcony, the crew erupts in cheers, celebrating their victory like they've just won everything. The guildswoman raises a toast to their quest's triumph, and to Magna's explosive debut. Lucha and Magna erupt in cheers, their wooden mugs clinking like a victory soundtrack. With a booming laugh, Lucha blurts out that after all that hard work, this drink feels absolutely incredible. Magna grins and quips that she sounds exactly like some cranky old man. Lucha huddles Liz and urges her to eat and drink, grinning as he declares their leader is footing the bill. Yet Liz twists toward him with a worried look, even with the celebration roaring around them. She leaned in and demanded to know if Magna was really the one who took down the demon user. She admits it plain, she and her sister feel like they brought nothing to the table. Magna snaps her attention back with a soft, firm push, shutting down her cruel, self-deprecating spiral. He tells them, "We were protecting the kids, so yeah, I got to move and do whatever it took." Lucha shoots a wink and declares, loud and proud, that this win belongs to their whole party. Magna leans in, tells Liz to eat, and wears a gentle, reassuring smile that calms her instantly. Magna's words steadied her and Liz hesitantly, still unsure, finally agrees to join the celebration. Their mugs clink again and this time the toast hits harder, pure, renewed camaraderie. Liz chews thoughtfully, eyes sharp as her mind races over what their new, elevated status really means. She lets the weight of the moment hit her as she realizes she's really landed inside a 3-star guild. Lucha's ambition explodes the moment she realizes, now they can finally enter the dungeon. Magna asks if she truly wants to go, and she practically blurts out a bright, unstoppable yes. He paints this massive, bottomless dungeon in vivid detail, where fortune glitters, but death waits around every corner. Lucha leans in with a sly grin, whispering that she's heard rumors about a back dungeon. During a celebratory meal, Liz, the red-haired girl, turned to Magna and fired off the question, where did he get that information? The whole scene dissolves into a chilling dark fade, like the lights just got snuffed out. From above, you can see 3 friends huddled in a tavern booth, crowding around a table like something big is about to go down. The angelic Lucha marvels at every coin they've pulled in, while Liz leans in and hammers home, counted again, slow and careful. Magna watches his friends, a quiet, thoughtful smile playing on his face. Their celebration explodes into cheers when the blonde guild's receptionist steps in and congratulates Magna on his promotion. She can't stop staring because his alchemy, turning a whole village into an army, feels downright unreal, and her eyes narrow as she wonders in secret if his power isn't just magic at all. Magna snaps back with humility, saying his hard-earned skill at saving every scrap came straight from his broke, starving past. The receptionist blurts out a quick apology for interrupting him, then insists she's got one last, crucial thing to say. She tells everyone that he boosted the party's rank, but his 2 buddies are stuck at just 1 star. She flashes a nightmare of grotesque monsters in her mind and warns them. This 3-star quest is shockingly, brutally more dangerous than anything they've faced. With a real, heartfelt smile, she begs Magna to keep them both safe on the road ahead. Magna leans in and hears her heartfelt plea, his face set, like he's already decided what he'll do next. He snaps his fork against his plate until his companion finally looks his way. Magna pushes them to slow down and train up properly, because as a 1-star team, they've got to get stronger before they can move forward. He makes it crystal clear. They've got to tighten up their coordination first, because those dangerous 3-star quests are not a place for sloppy teamwork. Liz nods, but doubt flashes in her eyes as she panics that she'll end up nothing but a burden. Lucha strides in with zero doubt, swearing everything will turn out fine, while Liz watches her like, are you sure? With a thunderous whump, Lucha slams a heavy haul of their earnings onto the table. A determined, fanged grin snaps across her face as she blurts out her plan to hunt down a secret scroll. A diagram lays it out. These rare magic items let you learn skills on the fly, no training required. Lucha tells them that getting stronger isn't just for show. It's how they'll finally clear 3-star quests, which makes it a no-brainer investment. Magna nods like, finally, this is brilliant, while Liz can't believe what she's hearing, stunned that her sister just pulled off such razor-sharp strategy. Fueled with pure energy, Lucha demands they scarf their food down fast, because once they're done, it's straight to the adventurer's market. Up in a shadowed window, a sinister figure stares down at the happy crowd as they spill out of the tavern. The old village chief from Magna's past leans in, teeth bared and rasps through a cruel smile. He's finally found him. He and his crew point at those ungrateful little brats who bolted, and somehow, it looks like they're doing just fine. One of the followers leaned in and asked the chief, should we go after Magna right now? The chief shuts the idea down and bluntly says Magna won't hear them out anymore. A subordinate blurts, so what's our plan? The chief's expression contorts, then a chilling, shadowy grin curls across his face. He shrugs and says it's easy, then he sets up a trap so Magna has no way out but to obey. He can't help but grin, everything is lining up perfectly for them. Outside, Lucha vents to Liz about those creepy little brats he saw, completely clueless as the real threat closes in. Then the story kicks into gear at the sprawling adventurer's market, a whole district built for one thing, gear for the next big quest. Main Street blazes with famous, trustworthy shops and packed storefronts everyone recognizes. In the back alleys, grim dealers trade stolen goods under the shadows and pitch dangerous, illegal quests like it's all just business. A dueling arena screams danger at every step, because in this market it's kill or be killed, anything goes. The party bursts into the Sasketch Magic Tool Shop, the kind of legendary place everyone in town swears by. A perfectly preen shopkeeper, his mustache sharpened to a point, steps forward and proudly showcases his absolute finest wares. He whips out 2 fancy, glittering scrolls, and right on them it boldly declares their combined price, a jaw-dropping 2 million G. Lucha's skin prickles in a cold sweat as the brutal cost of her plan slams into her like a wave. She starts to doubt whether she can truly justify spending that much, but Liz shuts her down, saying it's a must-have investment. With a grimace of pain on his face, Lucha reluctantly shoves the heavy bag of gold into their hands. Liz yanks the crying Lucha forward, forcing him to finish the deal. The shopkeeper nods with total confidence and calmly confirms the payment is in full. He steps up and promises to take the sisters to the reading room while they wait for the imprinting process to start. The shopkeeper tells him stamping these skills takes about an hour. Then he turns to them and demands, "So what's our companion gonna do while we wait?" Magna stares into the distance, weighing the 1 hour wait like it's a riddle he's ready to solve. He flashes the sisters a wave, then declares he'll hit the market while they sit tight and wait. Magna strides solo through the loud, cramped market streets, weaving through the chaos all by himself. He's left staring in awe at the wild, incredible variety of magic tools and potions lined up before him. He realizes he's never once had a reason to swing by the adventurer's market before. His curiosity sparks, and he decides to rush in and check the potion prices. He snatched up that simple cure potion, then guessed it'd probably set him back about 100G. His jaw drops when he spots the price tag, 10,000G. A tough shopkeeper snaps that even this is already the discounted rate, and Magna quickly apologizes. The shopkeeper lets out a heavy sigh, basically admitting, yeah, everyone knows the prices are sky high. He's seething because potions hit the hardest when it's the poor adventurers who can't even scrape together the money. Magna realizes the war's wrecking everything, and that's why potion prices are skyrocketing. The shopkeeper snaps that it's nothing but a flimsy excuse for the Alchemist Association to jack up the prices. This hits Magna with a sudden jolt. He finally links the prices to the association's monopoly. He grips that tiny vial and stares off into the distance, completely lost in thought. A tight close-up captures the potion's cloudy, low-grade liquid churning and swirling inside the bottle like it's alive. He can't stand it. He glares at how garbage quality is getting shoved out at a ridiculous price. He catches himself thinking back to the days when he idolized the Alchemist Association, seeing it as the ultimate hangout for legendary alchemists. He stares at the association building up ahead, and all he feels is bitter disappointment. Lucha and Liz burst out of the magic tool shop, waving goodbye like they just cracked the best deal in town. Lucha is over the moon. Her hands shake as she blurts out that this is the biggest purchase of her whole life. With fresh confidence blazing in her chest, she can't wait a second. She's charging into the dungeon to test her new skills immediately. Liz sobers up and bluntly warns him that overconfidence can get you seriously injured. Lucha waves off the worry with a grin, insisting it's all good because they've got Magna. Liz slams her sister to a stop, her footsteps thudding with pure, unshakable intent. She can't shake the doubt. Does it really feel right to take all this from Magna when they've barely earned a thing? Lucha's patience snaps. He fires back that Magna himself said it was totally fine. Liz pushes forward, drowning in guilt for always taking handouts from Magna. She can't help but wonder, does this relationship even count as a real partnership? Panic spirals in her chest as she blurts out, what happens if he just tosses us aside? She can't stop picturing them being dragged right back into that grim, dangerous grind of low-paying quests. She pushed, are we really going to gamble our lives again for just a few thousand G? The idea that one serious injury could leave them unable to afford medicine is downright crushing. Lucha's frustration explodes. She snatches her sister and snaps, stop acting so spoiled. Her face hardens as she snaps that they don't get to pick how they live. Liz stood frozen, staring in shock, and could only rasp her sister's name in a barely there whisper. Their bitter argument gets yanked to a stop when an old man suddenly crumples to the ground right in the street nearby. They charged to his side and Lucha blurted, what happened to you? The man struggled, barely able to speak, and begged them to help him into the alley right beside them. Lucha shoots back a quick yes, then tells Liz, help me get ready to assist him. The two sisters drag the fallen man into a lonely alleyway, leaving the world behind them. Lucha drops to her knees beside him, gripping his side as she blurts, are you okay? Should I call for a doctor? Every week, the man thanks the kind young lady for her compassion. He tells them, trust me, I'll be okay as soon as I take my medicine. He pops open the tiny vial and downs the contents in a flash. He declares that the moment he takes a drink, he'll be bursting with pure vitality. His body swells and twists in real time, muscles bulging in ways that look completely wrong. He rips into a monstrous brute form, roaring like his body can't hold all that energy anymore. Lucha freezes in sheer terror and lets out a scream so loud it cuts through the air. Liz shrieks in pure shock, then blurts out, who are you? Liz, a young woman in a hooded tunic, locks eyes on a tiny vial like it's about to change everything. Her face snaps into pure shock and confusion and she blurts out, wait, what am I even seeing? Three menacing, shadowy figures with wicked grins loom over her, closing in like a threat with teeth. Fists clenched with full force, energy surging off him like a warning, and you could feel the conflict boiling right beneath the surface. The scene flips to a burst of cobblestone beneath a fountain's base. In a quiet town square, the dark-haired alchemist Magna sits alone beside the fountain, alone with the weight of whatever's coming. He can't help but grin, totally convinced he nailed the perfect purchase. He leans in and studies the fire dragon's claw, pure, superior magic for a stamina potion. He wonders 300,000G feels like a steal, all just to keep his companion safe. Just then Magnus barrels in to confront him, right as his old village chief steps into view. The chief puts on a fake worried act, then snaps the stunned Magna back to the village with an invite. Magna's face snaps into shock, then dread crashes over him the second he sees that man. He snaps the chief's title like a warning, and his voice brims with deep, suspicious intent. He flat-out rejects the offer, then slams the chief, accusing him of trafficking the very medicine he brewed. The chief nonchalantly admits he's been shutting down troublemakers for good, brushing off every single worry Magnus throws at him. With a wicked little grin, he steps in and offers to introduce Magna to two gorgeous bride-to-be candidates. Magna freezes in total flustered confusion, staring at the wild, sudden offer like it's completely out of this world. The chief leans in and paints his point with a chilling description, two pitiful sisters and nothing more. Magna finally gets it, and the horror hits his face like a punch. The chief's face contorts into a sickly grin, like he's about to whisper something only meant for him. The chapter's title page blasts a brand new conflict at us, setting off sparks of trouble before anything even happens. The camera swings to a forest clearing, sliding right from behind the character's head like it's stalking the next moment. Magna's stomach drops when he realizes his friends are being dragged into captivity by those brutal villagers. He's yelling Liz and Lucha's names at the top of his lungs, both of them strapped to wooden posts. Lucha lifts her eyes, bruises crawling across her face as raw pain twists her expression. Liz also bludgeoned weakly murmurs, Magna, name and reputation until it took a hit. Heavy metal cuffs clamp the wrists shut, pinning them tight to the wooden posts. The chief leans in and smirks at Magna, telling him the flower maidens have fallen for him. With a smug grin, he pushes them to head back to the village together, right now. Magna glares at the chief, his face twisted in raging fury and pure disbelief. The ropes clinging to the sisters start to sizzle and ignite, and the moment they burn, the sisters let out blood-curdling screams. Magnus freezes in place, eyes bulging as their torment ramps up and rips through the room. The chief's cruel grin spreads wider as he pressures Magna to rethink that, no, he just refused. He slams down his terms, come back to the village or the girl's safety is anything but guaranteed. Magna clenched his teeth, realizing their lives were hanging by a thread because of him. Guilt crashes over him because he dragged them into this, and he won't stop putting their safety first no matter what. Sure, he can pull this off solo. He steels his nerves and moves to act on that brutal decision. He offers to head back to the village if they let the girls go, but the chief slams the door on the deal. Liz lets out a furious scream at Magna, warning him not to buckle under their demands. A hulking villager swings at Liz for daring to defy him, but Liz refuses to back down. The villager bares his teeth and snaps, "Shut your mouth." Liz, soaked in blood but unbreakable, grabs Magna's attention and tells him, "Don't worry about us, fight." Lucha snaps at him, screaming that he's a fool for even thinking that. Liz remembers what her sister warned her. No luxury exists to pick how they're forced to live. She figures, if we're going to be in danger anyway, then I'm going to fight my way out. Liz roars with pure conviction that battling side by side is what forges them into true comrades. Her powerful words hit Lucha like lightning, and his face instantly changes. A tear of pure resolve wells up in Lucha's eye as she stares straight at her sister. She bites her lip, and in that instant, pure determination locks in like steel. Lucha shoots a furious glare at Magna, screaming that she can't stand pain, then demands they hurry and save them fast. Liz clenched her jaw so hard her resolve flared, burning with the fierce courage her sister just showed. Magna steps up in front of the villagers, glaring down as his captive friends hang in the balance. A mysterious woman with wavy blonde hair slides into the scene and orders Magna, "Protect us." With his confidence shattered, Magna squares up, admits his mistake, and yanks his alchemical device into action. The wrong read on the situation snaps the chief's mind, and he barks a chilling, brutal order that turns violent fast. He orders his men to kill one of the girls, then Magna crashes in first. Lucha's face twists in pure terror as the villagers surge forward to attack. The sisters tensed up for impact, and pure fear flooded their faces. Liz squeezes her eyes shut, bracing for impact. The chief freezes in shock, staring hard as he wonders, is Magna really taking hostages? Magna shoots the chief a cocky grin, daring him to admit he miscalculated. Lucha's eyes popped wide with shock as Magna yanked that sudden move out of nowhere. Magna grabs the mysterious woman's attention and tells her, "You've got the rest. I'm handing it over to you." Magna explodes forward with a brutal kick, shattering the wooden posts that were holding the sisters in place. The chief just freezes, staring wide-eyed, totally stunned as everything flips out of nowhere. Freed, Lucha rips out her blade waltz, pure chaos, a cyclone of brutal slashes. Liz blasts out her 100-flower kick, and the villagers go flying as impact rocks the area. The village chief stares in horror, stunned by their sudden, overwhelming surge of power. Magna blurts out that he blasted them with a fire dragon's claw. The sisters huddle up ready to strike back and tell everyone the cold truth. He fired them with his own gun. He blurts out that he hacked their bodies to fuel an internal alchemy, turning their own stamina into a potion from the inside. The chief recoils in terror, staring at the nightmare ahead and demanding, why are humans even being used as ingredients? Magna raises his device and declares that his golden alchemy doesn't play favorites with a single material. He leans in and tells the chief, of everyone here, you're the one who should know this. The chief's mouth twists into a dark, low laugh that sends chills down your spine. His laughter swells louder and louder, and you can tell, this fight isn't even close to being over. A hulking old villager's silhouette swelled upward, dripping with monstrous power. He boldly declares that Magna's ridiculous talent is his now. With a wild, crazed stare, he swears no one else will ever lay claim to him. He roared Magna's name and swore he'd tear him back by cutting off every limb. He vows to reveal to Magna the raw, peak power of his body. He declares he's a former triple-star bandit, then launches forward like a threat. He slams down like a missile, determined to prove to Magna just how ferocious a real veteran's power can be. The attack slices through empty air, blasting a roaring cloud of dust and debris into the sky. Magna just juked out of the attack and boom, swung a crushing counterkick right back. The blast hurls the old man flying backward like a cannonball, smashing him back with sheer, crushing force. The bandit freezes on the spot, totally shocked, like his brain can't even process what just exploded in front of him. Magna shot a calm, dead serious question. Did he really down all 10 stamina potions with one hand? The defeated man snaps at the whole idea of running clinical trials. He doesn't even think about handing out a product until he's checked twice for safety. He lays it out plain, with a medicine this powerful, you've got to nail the exact dosage. He admits he tried every single version of that potion on himself. No shortcuts, just straight up risking his own body. A flashback kicks in, and you see a younger Magna grinding every single day, pushing his body straight to the edge. His fingers cracked, crumbled under the savage pressure of his deadly experiments. As a side effect, his strength skyrocketed, permanently and unnaturally, like his body got rewritten. The old bandit clutches his chest, and a wave of brutal agony rips through his body. Magna's boots dug in on the shattered ground, and his love for his friends flared back to life. He straight up warns that if the man dies from his medicine, it'll be a nightmare for everyone involved. He snapped his hand forward with a fierce, no-nonsense thrust. In a brutal turn, he rams his hand straight into the man's chest to rip the poison out of him. An unconscious elderly man sprawls on the ground in a nasty pool of black sludge as Magna watches, stunned. His once unnaturally ripped hand starts to shake, and under crushing pressure it strains like it might tear apart. In the blink of an eye, the hand crumbled into age, skin wrinkled, thinned, and turned frail like time itself struck it. Magna declares, like he's reading fate off a clipboard, that once the purging finishes, the man's life will be saved. He swivels toward the other villagers and calmly asks, who needs treatment next? Terrified, the men quickly insist they're totally fine and promise they'll leave right away. Magna sits in silence, replaying everything he's finally learned since he tore himself away from his old village. He finally gets it. He admires Lucia and Liz pushing themselves to help others, and it hits him like, that's what I want to be. On the flip side, he's got a burning hatred for those scumbags who'd exploit kindness like that. His expression snapped into iron conviction. He said he didn't need to hear their answer. Suddenly, a brutal fist slams into his jaw, and he stumbles backward like the world just rocked him. Groaning and clutching his face in agony, Magna blurts out, did I just get cursed with a punchable face or what? Then he shoots his companions a heartfelt apology, fully owning every bit of trouble he caused. Liz sharply tells Lucia, don't hit me, but Lucia just bursts out laughing, brushing it off as a startled mistake. He confessed he acted way too rash, spurred by Liz's defiance, and driven by pure instinct to protect them. Even with the pain gnawing at him, he lets out a small smile and admits, truth is, I was actually really happy. He finally admits that even as he called them comrades, he wasn't really treating them like equals. Because of that mindset, he just sat back and let them chase the triple-star quest happen without really pushing for it. Eyes blazing, he bursts out with pure excitement, let's do it together. Lucia just gapes at him, her face frozen in stunned silence as his sudden change of heart hits like a punch. Liz flashes a confident smile and tells him everything's going to be just fine. Magna clenches his fist and declares a wild new target, $100 million as the payoff. The story snaps over to the towering, multi-story Kremlin branch of the Alchemist Association, an absolute fortress. A blonde goateed man with a hard stare pounds his fist on two massive, ornate doors. In that dim, shadow-soaked room, a voice cuts through the darkness, asking who dares to disturb him. The man flashes a grin and says, Klaus. Then he drops the real reason he's here. He's come for the provisional employment exam. He says he wants to hear what Professor Weissman thinks about the whole situation. Inside a glamorous book-stuffed office, Klaus stands tall in front of a seated professor. A sad little potted plant with drooping, wilted leaves hangs its head on the professor's desk. Professor Weissman, old as the legends, lifts the plant to the light, eyes blazing as Klaus's story hooks him. Klaus can't even process it. He's baffled by how the candidate pulls off alchemy feats that look flat-out impossible. Weissman shuts the idea down on the spot, insisting that it's outright impossible. Klaus instantly breaks out in a nervous sweat, stunned by the professor's unshakable declaration. Weissman then hurls out a bold theory, that a legendary panacea can actually be forged from a humble common heel leaf. Klaus breaks down magic resistance, because it doesn't just block spells, it burns through most of the power first. Pulling that much essence out of those crappy materials would be an absolute miracle. With horror in his chest, Klaus realizes someone like this could forge deadly weapons out of plain pebbles. He finally decides that endlessly reshuffling matter isn't alchemy anymore. It's something else entirely. He declares this power is basically a god's handiwork, crafting humanity from dust. Weissman calmly tells them the report says the candidate did exactly that. The professor crowns the candidate as godlike, and that's exactly why he declares him completely unfit to become an alchemist. Klaus bows his head low and squeezes out a heartfelt apology, owning every bit of his role in what happened. Weissman snaps his hands into frantic, manic gestures, and his whole demeanor flips in an instant. He flashes a wide, predatory grin and praises Klaus for his razor-sharp judgment. Klaus is totally stunned, his face frozen in pure confusion as the professor's chilling joy gleams. Weissman says their products are worth a fortune exactly because they're so rare and so painfully inefficient to make. If someone could brew deadly powerful potions out of weeds, the whole market would crumble, and their so-called authority would fall apart overnight. His face hardens, and with a vicious snarl he declares that a godlike alchemist's very existence is unforgivable. Klaus stands there soaked with sweat, and terror spreads across his face like a sunrise he never wanted. Weissman snaps out a cold, swift command, activate their hidden enforcers, the Anbu. An ornate magical staff gleams in his hand as he casually reveals he's already summoned the witch. The story snaps to life inside a loud, crowded adventurers' guild hall, packed wall-to-wall with people. An adventurer blurts out to his companions, "Have you heard the wild rumors about Cat's Paw?" They're still staring in disbelief at how they rocketed from a 1-star rank to a triple-star overnight. One adventurer calls out an alchemist's choices, while another warns that the materials come with a brutal price tag. A wild rumor rips through the streets. This new alchemist can forge anything he wants from any material at all. Another adventurer snorts and blows off the idea that you can brew potions from weeds as pure fantasy. At that exact moment, an adventurer burst out shouting that the party Cat's Paw was back, right at the guild. The grand doors of the guild hall burst open, and right there, 3 figures step into view. Lucia grumbles that there's no treasure in sight, and Liz clicks her tongue like, "Yeah, the shallow spots are totally cleaned out." Liz lets it slip that the secret scroll saved them. At least they could finally stand up to those monsters. Lucia pushes, "Let's upgrade our gear so we can go deeper." But Liz cuts in, reminding her they're broke. Magna figures that adding more gear and stripping down the crew would make a long expedition way too dangerous. He shuts down Lucia's plan to hire more people, because he insists they can't afford even a single new hire. A towering brute in ornate armor strides in, locking eyes on Magna like, "So you're the newcomer everyone's been whispering about." The armored man's eyes stay ice-calm and razor-confident as he sizes up the young alchemist. Caught off guard by all that attention, Magnus nods and confirms he's the guy you've been searching for. Somebody in the crowd spots the legendary armored warrior, and it hits them so hard they freeze with shock. The man flashes a grin and introduces himself, Percival, the ruthless leader of the Quad-Star Guild, the Red Hounds. Magna gives a courteous, slightly rattled thank you for the introduction. Percival throws Magna a jaw-dropping offer: join his guild, and he promises her special treatment right away. Magna's eyes go wide, he's sweating buckets, completely rattled by this sudden high-profile offer. Lucia's eyes widen with shock and pure confusion as she watches the whole exchange blow up in front of her. A razor-sharp voice cuts in and snaps at the damn dog, ordering her to stop before she goes any further. Lilica winks at him, and suddenly her all-female guilt feels way more thrilling. She leans over Magnum and hisses in his ear that she'll offer a mind-blowing special service if he'll just sign up and join. Lucia and Liz snap with instant rage at the audacity of someone trying to steal their leader. Lucia screams, absolutely furious, swearing she'll never let him get ripped away from them. Percival grimly declares that when this kind of power gets thrown away, society bleeds and everyone pays the price. Lilica smirks and brushes the sisters off like they're just kids, grabbing pocket money. Lucia and Liz boil with rage, hissing through their teeth at the insulting remark. Magna Bose snapped his attention to the guild leaders, listening like every competing offer could change his fate. Lilica's jaw drops, Percival finally relents, tosses out a real apology and admits he overstepped. Both battle-hardened adventurers go wide-eyed when Magna drops a shockingly sudden decision. Magna tells everyone he didn't chase glory. He became an adventurer just to be useful to the people who needed him. He remembers his companions going all in, fighting tooth and nail, risking their lives for practically nothing. He declares he wants to keep working with them, pride surging so hard it practically radiates from Kat's palm. Lucia's eyes light up like fireworks as she blurts out Magna's name, crying with pure, soul-deep adoration. She slams into him with a fierce hug, plants a kiss on his cheek, and keeps blurting out over and over how much she loves him. Flustered, Liz scrambles to drag her sister away from Magna, who looks embarrassed and completely overwhelmed. Lilica mutters that youth burns with dazzling intensity, and Percival just watches, totally unmoved. Percival snaps out a new, serious respect, and speaks to the flustered Magna like he actually means it. He flashes a warm smile and tells Magna he's finally found companions worth trusting, real, truly good ones. He admits his regret, confessing he once craved Magna's power so he could chase that next big exploration. Magna hears the term and can't stop thinking about it, wondering what the great exploration could possibly be. A sharp, jarring sound slices through the air, right as a brand new figure crashes onto the scene. Every single one of them snaps their eyes to the entrance, ready to see who just showed up. Professor Weissman flicks his hat up and grins as he declares he's got urgent business with the guild Catspaw. In a stiff meeting room, Weissman dips into a deep bow and pours out a heartfelt apology for the unfair exam screening. Magna is totally frozen in shock, his hat slipping off his head as he stares, utterly stunned and unable to believe what he's seeing. The old man drops into a deep bow, fully owning his supervisory screw-ups, and offering a heartfelt apology like it's the only thing that can make it right. Magna, the dark-haired young man, snaps at the bowing men, and tells the blonde companion to lift their heads. Magna then declares with total confidence that the whole previous incident no longer even bugs him. The blonde woman with the glowing halo shot to her feet in shock and demanded, "Wait, so what's the real request?" Professor Weissman, an older man with sharp eyes, suddenly sits up and confirms it. He's got a request for them. Wearing a grim face, he formally calls the guild Catspaw to the 38th Great Exploration. The blonde woman mouths the strange word again, and her face twists with pure confusion as she struggles to make sense of what great exploration even means. A blonde guy named Klaus steps up and offers to break it all down for the whole group. Klaus starts off by bowing to Magna with razor-sharp respect, like he's sealing a promise right there. Magna fires back the same formal gesture and even throws in a small nod of his own. Klaus tells them the great exploration is no small thing. It's a massive dungeon excavation job powered by the Alchemist Association. He points out this massive dungeon buried under the continent, so deep and so untouched that nobody even knows how far it truly goes. The main forces are set on carving out the zone all the way down to an 800-meter depth. This mission is going to rally about 200 adventurers and guild staff, starting from the top ranks and pulling in everyone down the line. They lock down safe routes, build the camps, and dig up critical resources, always under armed guard. He lays out Catspaw's deadly mission in full, serving as the vanguard, driving straight for a drop to 1,000 meters. Klaus paints it as a heroic, risky mission, one that could seriously turbocharge humanity's future. He finishes his formal speech with a thunderous bow and pleads for their cooperation. The blonde woman flashes a sweet smile and asks what kind of reward they're supposed to get for this job. Professor Weissman snaps at Klaus, ripping into his long, boring presentation. He drops his apologies on the young lady's feet, owning up for his subordinate's bone-dry explanation. He cracks his knuckles, smacks his hands together, and readies an even tastier offer, straight from his own mouth. Weissman vows to foot the bill for everything, then locks his sights on Catspaw as his own personal treasure hunting prize. He promises to pay a price for their findings that'll blow their minds and keep them begging for more. With wide eyes, the blonde woman yanks her companions close and demands they talk, right now, about that unreal offer. Crouched close, their dark-skinned companion murmurs that the deal sounds insanely tempting. Magna leans in, nods with purpose, and admits that this is the kind of chance you'd be crazy to pass up. With the right supplies and a base camp, he figures out how to turn a mission that seemed impossible for three into something that's actually doable. Their cautious red-haired friend cuts in and warns that offers like this have always ended in trouble for them. Magnet lays it out. A legit outfit like the Alchemist Association wouldn't dare put in a fake request. The blonde woman bought his logic hook, line, and sinker, and then she blurted out that they had to take the offer. She slams her hand down, nods with pure excitement, and accepts the mission for them. No hesitation at all. Professor Weissman's face snaps into a jagged, toothy grin, and pure sinister menace spreads across his features. With a sly grin, Professor Weissman tells them to stop stalling and lock in that contract, right now. Warrior Lilica grins and casually declares that her and Percival are hopping into the Vanguard too. A week later, Magna steps up and officially takes the mission, flashing a confident grin like he owns the moment. Their epic expedition kicks off right at the entrance to the Virgil ruins near Kremlin. More than 200 adventurers unleash themselves and drop straight into the dungeon. They stumble through twisting, mind-bending corridors in a colossal pitch-dark underground labyrinth. The whole team pushes farther in, Lucia grinning like it's a party, while Percival stays stone-cold and unshakable. They finally hit Headed, a loud, thriving city where the lower-ranked guilds run the whole logistics game from the surface. The main force grabs supplies and charges ahead, deeper into the unknown depths than anyone dares to go. 400 meters underground, they plunge into a weird subterranean forest where colossal roots twist like living giants. A massive winged serpent monster lunges in front of the 5-person Vanguard team, daring them to stop it. The beast's claw slashes through the air with terrifying speed and brute, crushing force. Lilica moves like lightning, slipping past the monster's brutal, swarming strikes all around her. The whole party surges ahead in a blur, smashing with perfectly timed, coordinated strikes. A monster's huge head whips downward, scraping past one of the adventurers with barely an inch to spare. Magna lifts his twin pistols high and rains ranged fire into the brawl, backing everyone up from a distance. From a towering ledge, the main expedition force roars with pride as they watch the Vanguard charge below. 10 days later, they finally crash through the last stretch and reach the dragon's graveyard, 800 meters under the ground. A jaw-dropping bridge, built from a dragon's massive spine, spans a bottomless chasm like a nightmare come to life. Pale as a ghost, Lucia's voice trembles as she demands to know if that bridge is truly safe. Her companion Liz blurts her own worry and then points out the truth: it's made of bone. Percival flashes a confident grin and swears that dragon bone is way stronger than stone. Liz stares, jaw dropped, stunned that a dragon that massive could have actually existed. He tells you these creatures roamed ages ago, and then he points to the preserved layer like it's frozen history. The adventurer's boot slams down on the solid cavern floor the moment they cross over. Exhausted to the bone, Lucia crumples down in relief, finally clawing her way across the chasm. Lilica realizes the glowing moss from that old expedition is still lighting up the cavern like it never stopped. Percival nods along and the look on his face practically screams, "This is working," now that he's seen their progress the way she described. He slams his hand down, declares this place their new base camp, and starts barking orders to the whole crew. Adventurers are told to start building defensive barricades and walls right away. They get told to stay on their toes at all times, because the next hit could come out of nowhere from the sky. The 5-person Vanguard huddles close, eyes locked, ready to explode into the next stage of their mission. With a grim stare, Percival tells them, "After we rest, we're marching straight into the dragon's jaw." A terrifying corridor is waiting, built from the gaping, skeletal maw of a dead dragon. The party's hunting the Naraku Great Waterfall, the one plunging a mind-blowing 928 meters down, humanity's deepest drop. Their leader, Percival, growls that they're stepping into uncharted territory and warns everyone to be ready. The dark-haired alchemist locks eyes with steely determination and nods like, "Got it." His companions whisper, shaking in their boots, that the terrifying dragon skull entrance looks ready to swallow them whole. Elsewhere, a blonde woman lingers nearby, hovering close to a short, elderly man, and another guy sporting a sharp goatee. The goatee-wearing man lines in and quizzes his elderly companion, demanding to know where the witch is. Tucked deep in a roaring chasm, a lone witch stands her ground against 2 colossal winged shadow serpents. From an unseen stranger's sleeve, 3 tiny snake-like familiars burst out and hiss like they're ready to strike. The witch clenches her fist and pours in a massive surge of magic energy, like the power is ripping out of her grip. A cataclysmic blast of power erupts from her and swallows everything in blinding light. The alchemist smirks as he tells his stunned friends, "Relax, the advance party's already here." The chapter The Red Calamity kicks off with the party staring down monstrous silhouettes that loom out of the dark. 2 bipedal armor lizards crash into the spotlight as threat level 2 monsters. Those scales are so hard they feel nearly unbreakable. Percival, Cygnus, the alchemist, Lucio, and Liz, everyone at the full party, stands poised and ready to smash into battle. A warrior rockets forward, gripping a massive blade as he prepares to smash straight into a reptilian beast. Power charge engaged, he blasts out a colossal wave of destruction, energy ripping through everything. The warrior's sickness unleashes Calamity Edge, and with a sharp, merciless swing it carves through several lizards. The alchemist levels his handgun, squeezes the trigger, and blasts one of the creatures straight out of the way. His bullets ricochet off the armor lizard's iron-hard hide, doing 0 damage. Seeing how brutal it really is, the alchemist snaps and decides he's got to switch tactics. He declares he'll smash it straight on, unleashing his golden forge technique like a weapon. Dark spikes pierce the creature's body, and it crashes down in a gruesome heap. Cygnus stared in terror at the alchemist's brutal power, and Percival immediately wondered, could that corpse actually be useful? Percival snaps his head around and barks to one of his companions right away. Liz gets pinned down by a lizard's claw, tears spilling as she screams for help, while Lucia just watches, frozen in place. Percival leans in and tells Liz, "Your secret scroll holds a skill that slices straight through enemy defenses." His words yanked Liz out of her panic, and her face snapped into steel, pure resolve. The monster's razor claws gouge into Liz's arm, tearing at the skin like they mean business. Liz ducks low, then readies her own crushing counterattack. She declares she'll unleash her fighting spirit, pulling power together as she charges up for her martial arts form. From afar, Lucio keeps his eyes locked on her, and notices her stance just feels a little wrong. Liz hurls her hand forward, and blasts a scorching electric violet lightning palm straight into the air. Cygnus roars with fierce conviction, insisting her ally's skill can slice clean through both armor and flesh. With a fierce grunt, the fanged adventurer Lucia snarls and powers through, fighting the monster head-on. She rockets onto its back and declares, "This attack I've got right now, it's not strong enough yet." Her twin swords slammed into the creature's armored hide, but the armor barely budged. She realizes that one clean hit is all she can squeeze out before the armor shrugs it off. She gathers every last ounce of strength and swings one final, earth-shattering punch. She clashed blades and surged her fighting spirit into one brutal final strike. She slams out her ultimate move, the twin sword dance gavotte cross. With a triumphant, fang-bared grin, she erupts in joy, shouting that she finally pulled it off. Percival leans in and praises her, then points out that her twin sword dance scroll was a brilliant buy. He proudly claims it's a top-tier scroll favored by 5-star guilds, but she can't help grumbling about how ridiculously expensive it is. The warrior Cygnus shoots an apology his way, finally admitting he underestimated their alchemist as he turns to face him. With a bright grin, she tells him they need the finest gear for an adventurer like him. Lucia flashed a playful wink at Riza, grinning like, "Don't worry, I've got you, I'm counting on you." Riza looks a little flustered, but she shyly nods and whispers that she's counting on you. Noir grinned, thrilled to see their advance investment hit like a bull's. Percival thumbed his gauntlet device, and with a sharp snap of confidence, he declared they'd sunk to a brutal 900 meters. He points ahead and says the Naraku Great Waterfall is right there, just around the bend. A colossal underground water vein blasts through the earth, feeds the falls, and he shoves them forward like it's do or die. The story cuts away to the Kremlin's surface meeting spot, where the real power play is about to begin. The Adventurers Guild rises in all its glory, blazing beneath the bright, open sky. Inside, the blonde receptionist slammed her magical communication device shut after finishing the call. Her subordinate tells her the huge dungeon operation is rolling along without a single snag. The receptionist starts spiraling in panic, because this mission is about to throw half of her branch's fighters into the fight. A weather-beaten adventurer with a sword strapped to his back strolls up and casually shoots them a friendly greeting. The receptionist clocks the scarred stranger instantly and realizes it's Toshu, the adventurer everyone talks about. He tells them loud and clear that he's there to grab his brand-new guild card. The receptionist's face lights up like a match, and she blurts out that she's been waiting for him. Toshu clocks her blazing eagerness as she leans over the counter. She cheers for that triple-star rookie, gassing a whole horde of bandits on his very first job. Toshu's mind drags up a brutal tale he heard long ago, just as he steps into the port. The ship he was on got hammered so hard by a colossal kraken that it nearly sank. The receptionist flinches in disbelief, blurting out, "Wait, was it a monster at quadruple-star level?" He checks that the ship made it through, then fires off the sailor's wild story about the miracle. A lone witch on the deck unleashed brutal fire magic and incinerated the kraken to ash. The receptionist can't believe her eyes. She's staring in awe at a witch who just torched a water monster. Deep in the dungeon, the party huddles at the edge, staring into the dark like they can feel trouble breathing down their necks. Lucia erupts in joy, screaming that they've finally reached the Naraku Great Waterfall. Noir's face tightens into pure focus as he senses the air suddenly shift around him. He blurts out, "Why did it jump like this?" as the temperature shoots up out of nowhere. Percival's grin dies on his face as dread hits, because there are only 7 quintuple-star criminals left. A shadow drops out of the sky and panic hits him hard. He's terrified the red calamity has finally arrived. The party's frozen in fear, and their lack of real killing intent drags their reactions like slow motion. Noir's split-second freeze ruined everything, and that fatal delay crushed his judgment in the worst possible moment. Percival keeps moving, no pause, no mercy, his face carved into pure grim determination. He snaps on his Aegis guard and the shield detonates his defense, multiplying it a staggering 100-fold. The shield splinters in an instant, and the enemy's scorching strike rips straight through. Mel the witch stands over her fallen enemy, while Prometheus looms behind her like a shadow about to strike. Blonde warrior Lyrica rocketed toward Mount with terrifying speed, launching herself in a single, unstoppable lunge. Their moves hit at the same time, carving out a deadly opening that the witch snapped up instantly. Lyrica's strike was unstoppable. She aimed it straight for the witch's neck. Her face twists with shock as her attack whiffs, missing cleanly. Melt is already behind her, an arm locked around her throat, and that crushing gap in skill is turning her hope into despair. Lyrica's eyes turn stark white the moment that final, devastating blow lands. Prometheus unleashes a colossal fiery explosion, and a blinding flash swallows both of them whole. The shockwave rips through the ruins, and the Magna tumbles end over end across the shattered ground. Two fallen comrades are sprawled dead and still, their bodies half hidden among the rubble. Russia, his companion, stands off to the side, staring, her face gone pale with shock. Magnus's eyes widen in pure terror as he gapes at the total destruction sprawled in front of him. Liz stood beside Russia, eyes wide with disbelief, fear clawing at her face. Melt grins, her thoughts snapping into place as she read the whole exchange, clocked it in just 3 seconds. A sharp little grin breaks her lips, and a thrilled, sinister chuckle slips out like a warning. The clash of divine magic and golden alchemy erupts, and it all kicks off as Magnus squares up to face her. He regrets every second he hesitated, because that bad call sent his two allies crashing down. He shoves regret out of the way, steels himself, and throws his body forward. Now is the only moment that matters. Melt raises his hands again, and a swirling orb of dark energy starts forming, an all-new spell, right on the verge of breaking free. Magna's strike slices right through her, and the look on Magna's face screams pure shock as it does nothing. He shouts her name, Melt, and she snaps back, demanding to know how he even knows it. Lucha is left speechless. She blurts out, "Wait, do you actually know that witch, Magna?" He brushes her off, insisting he doesn't know her, yet he can't stop thinking about it. How does she know his name? Melt grins, relieved she found the right person, because if she hadn't, it would have turned into a total headache. She remembers her sensei warning her that Magna is straight up a terrible person. Magna's eyes widen in shock at the jaw-dropping revelation his opponent just throws at him. Melt says his alchemy is the reason so many people are getting hurt. She says her sensei told her to take him down for the very same reason. Her face contorts with pure desperation as she screams, "I need someone, just need to be wanted." She screams that if things don't go her way, then she shouldn't exist in this world at all. "Then die," she screams, detonating her divine magic Prometheus. Magna is completely lost, like, "Wait, what are you even talking about?" because he has zero clue. He shoves his confusion aside, because the only thing that matters is stopping her. He hurls a vial to his crew, shouting at Russia and Liz as it spins through the air. They snatch the vial out of the air, and the moment they see it, they know it's a legendary all-cure elixir. Magna taunts Prometheus and blasts the golem with his alchemical pistols, forcing the fight to ignite. He blasts the idea that he'll snag everyone's attention while they slip off and handle the others. He screams that it's an elixir, then orders them to honor their two fallen comrades. He dives and weaves like a blur, slipping past every one of the golem's crushing energy blasts. Out of nowhere, colossal stone spikes explode up from the ground like a nightmare. Melt twists her own alchemy into the mix and smashes right through his escape tactics. He dodges again, and the moment it clicks, understanding flashes across his face. He stares at Melts, standing stone still while the battlefield explodes all around him. He mutters under his breath, and it hits him. Now he finally gets her weird little trick. His strikes aren't missing at all, they're punching through a warped, heat-blown mirage. He finally clocks it, none of this is real, and not even an attack can land on her. He flips his strategy on the spot, pulls back from attacking and surges into pure evasion. His eye flares with light as he studies her relentless, raging, world-shaking magic without ever letting up. A status scan flashes one brutal truth: her MP is getting ripped away fast, and the price tag is insane. He figures that if he can just hold out for 3 more minutes, he'll seal the win. Melt's wicked grin snaps back as he muses that everyone always jumps to the same conclusion. Magna suddenly stumbles, hands flying to his throat as he chokes and gasps for air. Dread creeps in as he finally realizes what's happening to him. Melt tells them her golems, flames burn through oceans of oxygen, and they also gulp up mana. Gasping on the ground, Magna realizes the witch's flames have burned up every last breath of oxygen. Melt the witch lifts her hand with a razor-toothed grin, lining up the final strike. Her armored golem, Prometheus, copies her exact stance and hammers out an enormous sphere of energy. The golem blasts its devastating gamma-ray apocalypse, unleashing a non-stop torrent of raw, unstoppable power. A terrified female companion wails Magna's name, her face twisted in pure panic. With grim-style determination, Magna snaps that his enemy will not taste victory on his watch. He slams both palms into the ground, and with a roar of golden alchemy, a castle wall bursts into existence. A blazing beam of energy crashes into the brand new rock barrier and smashes it to pieces. Magna groaned as the wall buckled, cracking wide under the brutal force of that thunderous blast. He knows one simple barrier won't save him. The brutal heat is coming to erase his life. A wild idea ignites in his mind, sparked by the way a winter sparrow's insulating feathers keep it warm. He tears into the wall from the inside, reshaping it into a honeycomb, and boom, an air-filled thermal shield seals it all up. Melt cackled maniacally and brushed off his desperate little scheme like it was totally pointless. She throws her head back and cackles, triumphant and delighted, as his efforts crash and burn in vain. Magna's face twists with raw disbelief, as she realizes she can unleash this magic again and again. With a gleeful sneer, Melt swears he's right, then blasts his second gamma ray. The second blast is fully charged, poised to tear through everything in its path and leave nothing standing. A roaring wave of pure white energy crashes toward a struggling alchemist's position. Melt begs for him to be completely obliterated as everything around them crumbles away into searing light. Through the smoky wreckage, she gasps for breath, her magic energy drained to nothing. In a blink, Magna's fierce eyes flare, like he's already laid out the next move in his head. A raging inferno has turned the world into smoking wreckage, just one colossal crater ripped straight into the rock wall. The witch staggers ahead, bones aching and body failing, yet her spirit roars with victory. A low, satisfied chuckle slips from her lips as she takes in the complete wreckage. With her eyes locked on the sky, she called out to her unseen sensei, asking if she'd finally proven she could be useful. One of Magna's companions hisses in pure disbelief, her face turning death pale with horror. She and a revived ally shout Magna's name in pure heartbreak, convinced he's gone for good. At the start of the new chapter, Melt lets out a quiet laugh, soaking up her victory like she just won it. A brutal dark spike erupts from her back out of nowhere, driving straight through her and pinning her body in place. Magna's female companion leans in and whispers his name, and the shock on her face is so intense it feels unreal. The witch snaps a brutal cough, and a spray of blood bursts out as her eyes go wide, filled with pure helpless agony. From the choking smoke and crashing dust, a dark silhouette of Magna rises, alive, fierce, and utterly unbreakable. His two female companions gape at him, stunned with happy disbelief that he's still standing. Stabbed and beaten, the witchmelt gasps weakly and demands, "How in the world are you still standing?" Out of the smoky haze, the smoke magnet surges up, gripping two smoking pistols with grim resolve blazing in his eyes. With a smug smirk, he tells them straight up, alchemy can't conjure life from nothing, it only reshapes what already exists. He admits the so-called barrier's material wasn't made at all, it was ripped straight from the dirt under his feet. With a cocky grin, he drops the truth. His real mission was never to smother the fire, it was to dig a hole. Sprawled on the ground, Melt jolts in horror. She realizes she let her guard down and got completely outplayed. Magna's relieved crew, his fanged blonde buddy and that red-hooded girl, comes sprinting straight at him. The red-hooded girl sobs his name with tears of relief, and he's stunned, because she's telling him he's finally safe. The fanged girl flashes a thumbs up and shouts, "That was terrifyingly close." With a faint smirk still hanging on his face, Magna asks what's going on with the other two comrades. Percival, the armored warrior, bursts out of the dust, alive and unscathed, all because Magna has him covered. He and the dark-skinned warrior Cygnus burst back into view, and they admit it, sure they're alive, but they're absolutely wiped out. Percival stared at Melt and told her just how monstrous her divine magic is, a spell that normally takes **10 mages to pull off. He drops the bombshell that she's got a piece of the Red Calamity, one of the only 7 5-star criminals in the entire world. He admits it's wild, no matter how terrifying her power was, somehow they still pulled it off and brought her down. Magna humbly tells everyone, "We lived because the warriors threw themselves in front of the first strike." Cygnus listened to him, nodded like he understood, but the terrifying near-death moment still churned in his head. The whole party crowds around the fallen witch, pressing her hard with one burning question. Why did she fixate on wiping Magna out? The red-hooded girl mulls over Melt's words, remembering how a sensei had handed down that order. The fanged girl leans in and presses Magna, asking if he can think of anyone nursing a grudge that deep. He flirts with the idea, but it still feels impossible, like his old enemy couldn't possibly be backed by connections that strong. Their talk gets snatched out of thin air the second a pair of perfectly polished shoes slides into view. A sharp-eyed, well-dressed old man steps in and coldly snaps at his subordinate, asking if she has failed. The party snaps to attention when a shocking old man and his companion, Klaus, suddenly crash into the scene. Melt's hand shakes against the dirt, her whole body trembling with fear and shame. Blood streaks her lips as she stammers out a hurting, trembling apology to her sensei. The old man's gloved fist tightens as he lays out his razor-sharp hopes for her. His top hat is sprawled on the ground nearby, proof of his authority, right in the middle of this tense chaos. With icy, unyielding eyes, he tells Melt he's crushed by her failure. That one word crushed her hopes, and fear detonated in her chest, her eyes snapping wide with pure terror. She yelps in raw agony, crumples in terror, and collapses right before her master. The adventuring party stares at the newcomers, then their faces harden, and hostility and suspicion flood in. Cygnus snaps that the man is Melt's client, while Percival slams for answers from Professor Weissman. With rage blazing in her eyes, Lyrica, this dark-skinned warrior, demands the old man's answer. Did he really hire the Red Calamity? With a calm little grin, Weissman lays it out. His plan was to wipe out a future threat to his association. His sharp eyes burned with disappointment, as he said he'd totally overestimated Magna's abilities. Magnus jolted when the old man brushed him off with that dismissive, totally confusing line. Weissman kicks off his lecture and lays it on the table. Magna's alchemy can transmute matter with straight-up impossible efficiency. He keeps talking, praising Magnus' power as godlike, then sneers that it's nothing compared to the real deal. Even after all his judging, he still lands on the same truth. Magna is still a major threat to the association. A grim look hardens on Magna's face as the truth hits. He realizes he's gotta be wiped out. Lyrica erupts in rage, slamming her fists and shouting at Weissman to stop acting like he's the only one who matters. She snarls and tightens her stance, then jabs her sharp claws forward as she's about to unleash her attack. She surges forward in a shaky haze, her body streaking like lightning. Her shadow stitch tech snaps the old man's shadow flat to the ground, locked in place. Weissman stares in stunned silence, completely blindsided by her slick, brilliant move. His own shadow traps him, pinning him completely in place. Lyrica screams at Magna to strike right now. She's carved out the opening. Magna's expression snaps into iron resolve, and his hesitation vanishes like it never existed. He knows their enemy's malice can't be faced with silence. It has to be met head-on the same way. With stone-cold focus, he levels his alchemical firearm at the trapped man and takes aim. A blinding flash detonates from the barrel as he pulls the trigger and fires. The golden alchemy purge slams into Weissman's head, while Lucia erupts in cheers of victory. His body starts to crumble apart, peeling into a million glowing particles that vanish into the air. As his form evaporates out of existence, his monocle goes flying and clatters hard onto the ground. Percival and Lyricum, just like everyone else, stare in total shock, their mouths hanging open as they can't believe what they're seeing. Behind them, shimmering particles swirled together, snapping Wei's man back into full form, completely unharmed. Then this creepy kid pops back up and reintroduces himself. Victor Weissman, master of the life equation. Two girls at the party burst into terrified horror, staring at something they absolutely can't believe. His tiny body starts to shake violently, and the shape twists again. Another transformation is about to kick off. A brutal black scorpion tail erupts from his back, like his genome just got rewritten mid-fight. Magna Watch is shaken to the core, realizing he's rewriting the blueprint of life itself. The monstrous child lifts a hand and unleashes his next spell. A sparkling Ace Guard dome snaps into existence, locking the whole party inside. Without a second glance, the monstrous Weissman pivots away from them and locks onto his busted subordinate, Melt. Percival stares, baffled, because their enemy isn't going for Magna at all. A horned figure gets violently slammed into the dirt, eyes bulging with pure shock, while another person rockets backward, sent flying by the attack. The alchemist Weissman snaps, turning on his failed subordinate as a shadowy tendril snakes straight toward her. A young adventurer yelps in pure horror, convinced he's about to strike down his own comrade. The witch lets out a scream so brutal it chills the soul as she's grabbed and dragged into suffering. Weissman gives her chilling final order she'll serve one last purpose, then she activates a force command. Melt's face twists into a gut-wrenching scream as the ruthless spell finally locks in. Her body suddenly goes slack as a dark energy vortex starts spiraling around her. The party stares in terror as their beaten enemy gets hoisted into the sky, then transforms into a living, ticking bomb. Magna's face drains of color as terror hits. This explosion isn't controlled anymore, and it's going to vaporize everything in its path. With everything on the line, he lets out a desperate scream, begging everyone to leap straight into the abyss. Magna slams his hand into the cavern floor, kicking off his last-ditch escape plan. A blinding eruption of pure white light tears through the air, with a roar so loud it feels like it's crushing your bones. A thunderous blast rips through the rock floor, then detonates into a massive sphere of pure destruction that swallows the whole area. A brutal shockwave hits the crew like a wrecking ball, smashing their momentum and hurling them headfirst into the chasm, tumbling all the way down. One boot suddenly flies into view as the party member gets hurled off the crumbling ledge. The whole crew gets blasted off their feet, then plummets straight into the dark chasm, shrieking as they fall. They drop straight into the dark abyss, and a grim text box flashes depth, 4,360 meters. That warrior woman can't believe the blast's raw power. It's so vicious it almost wipes them out. Her companion lets out a breath of relief, saying they barely clawed their way out before the cataclysm crushed everything. The fanged girl blurts out in rising panic that there's no way they're getting saved anytime soon. She lets out a terrified scream, fully realizing that this insane height is a death sentence. She whipped her gaze to her leader and urgently blurted to Magna, "So what are we doing right now?" She's instantly stunned when Magna clings to their unconscious enemy and watches him melt as they plunge down. As they plunge downward, Magna clamps down on Melt's unconscious body, gripping him tight like he's not going anywhere. Magna tells her straight up, if he'd left her behind, she would have died for sure. The party plunges deeper and deeper, trapped in a long, terrifying freefall into that misty chasm that looks like it has no bottom. The fanged girl yelps in shock as she spots the massive waterfall, gone without a trace. The warrior woman points out that the massive fall has shattered the water into a breath-light mist. That night, Percival grips his wrist device and checks it again, because the data hits him with an insane kind of depth. The device confirms it. Those bodies were already smashed down more than 2,000 meters from the top of the waterfall. His companion's eyes widen with dread as he realizes the bottom of the chasm is still nowhere to be seen. Magna stays cool while his friends spiral in panic, then tells them he's got a plan ready. He whips around to the now conscious Melt and tells her he needs her help to pull off his success. Melt's eyes flare wide with confusion, and one sharp question burns on her lips. The fanged girl erupts in outrage, and Magna can't miss it. Melt is their enemy. As they plunged downward, Magna leaned in and told Melt the truth. Her master had left her behind. He tells them they've got to team up, because without cooperation, none of them are making it out alive. Magna throws down his final all-heal potion, watching it melt away as a bold sign of trust. Then he orders Percival to blast a full-power spell from Mount Fire at him, straight toward the bottom. The warrior woman and the other girls scream in panic, convinced Magna's plan is reckless, wild, and utterly insane. Magna stares on, jaw tight and eyes locked, bracing for Melt's answer like it could decide everything. Melt blurts in disbelief, asking if he's really supposed to trust her for this plan. Magna stares at her with trembling, desperate intensity, like he's begging for something real. And you can tell his plea is 100% sincere. He's adamant he only trusts her to ask for help in this mess. Melch's face snaps into a huge, wide grin, those sharp, predatory teeth bared like he's about to pounce. She bursts into wild excitement, snapping the potion cork free with her sharp teeth. Fully healed, Melt slams her Prometheus divine magic into the ground, unleashing its power below Percival. With a thunderous roar, she hurls her gamma ray spell straight into the abyss. Magna clenched his fists, bracing for the brutal backlash he knew they were setting him up to face. He figures there's no way this chasm ends in nothing. Surely, a massive pool of water sits at the bottom. Blast that huge stretch of water with intense heat, and it'll hit you with the same outcome every single time. A massive steam explosion blasts out of the depths, roaring upward toward them at full speed. Magna's grim smile snaps across his face as he blares that the updraft is finally here. He screams at Percival to slam his shield into the blazing steam current. Percival finally gets the insane logic of the plan, and realization hits his face like a flash of light. He fires up his ace guard to maximum power, blasting a gigantic energy shield into existence. A brutal updraft crashes into the brand new shield, smashing it with bone-rattling force. The shield groans and rattles as the superheated steam blasts down with brutal, crushing force. Even as the strain tries to break it, the hexagonal barrier digs in and refuses to fall to the blast. A party member stumbles onto the shield's surface, and that brutal fall finally gets stopped, right before fear takes over. The fangirl blurts in pure shock that their fall has suddenly halted, then the plan clicks in her mind. Magna clocks a shadowy cave mouth and blasts, "Everyone get in there now." They scramble into the cave and slam their way to safety just as the steam starts to die out. The energy shield's remains start to crack, then shatter apart under the crushing weight. The last broken shards of that shield vanish into the dark abyss below. The drained party crumples onto the tiny cave ledge, and for the first time, they're finally out of danger of that deadly fall. Magna whips around for a quick count, firing off, "Did everyone make it to the cave?" The red-hooded girl stammers with a trembling voice and confirms it. Somehow they made it out alive. The fanged girl lets out a shaking breath, clutching relief like it's oxygen, because after that nightmare, she's finally alive. Percival leans back and admits they somehow beat the impossible, even when every sign screamed they'd defail. Magna checks his device and blurts out their depth, 360 meters. That's a brand new human record. The warrior woman shoots a grim look at the chaos and mutters that this is just one more brutal nightmare she has to face. She locks eyes with Mel and bluntly says, "Forget everything else. Getting you out is the real problem we have to deal with now. She rips the truth into the room. A 5-star designated criminal like Melt can't be trusted. The red-hooded girl nods immediately, and she snaps that Melt wasn't protecting anyone. He was just trying to kill Magna. Percival admits they have to sit down and figure out what to do with their brand new, dangerously powerful prisoner. Melt snaps in on their conversation, demanding to know if she's truly been nothing but a nuisance to them. With a trembling, sad smile, she admits she's caused them all the kind of trouble no one could ever forget. She pushes herself upright and tells them, "It's fine, don't you worry one bit." She turns her back on the group and coldly declares that it won't matter. She's dying soon anyway. She turns and strides straight into the darkness, fully intent on vanishing without a trace. The whole party erupts into a panicked chorus, completely reeling from her shocking declaration. They watch her vanish, completely stunned, like their brains can't process her sudden, grim choice. Magna surges forward, screaming at the top of her lungs for them to stop, begging them not to leave. He snatches her arm at the exact second she's about to disappear into the cave. Melt whips around, stunned, and blurts out that he saved her again. With a heartbreak smile, she confessed she was only trying to vanish, so she wouldn't be a burden anymore. Her eyes soften when she sees Magna isn't just acting, he's genuinely scared for her well-being. Magna snaps at her for storming off on a whim, like that rash choice was the end of the world. He yells at her, slamming the message into her heart. She can't treat her own life like it's disposable. Magna steps up to the group and straight up tells them he gets why they're scared of Mount. He tells them that in these mysterious depths, they're staring down wave after wave of threats they've never even seen before. He insists they've got to grab every scrap of fighting power they can, because their survival is on the line. Percival nodded along with Magna's read on things, and he stepped up, throwing his full weight behind the temporary alliance. The warrior woman stares at Percival, stunned out of her mind, as she demands why he'd make a move like that. He points out that a path this deep feels wrong, like it's swallowing power on purpose, burning through immense strength just to keep going. The fanged girl finally grits her teeth and admits, reluctantly, that teaming up is their best move right now. The red-hooded girl stays silent as she shoots her companion a steady look, accepting the group's call like it's already decided. The warrior woman gives in, but sharpens her warning to Melt. She's saying they'll keep a hawk-eyed watch on her at all times. Melt shyly leaned in and begged Magna to call her by her name, then she thanked him for the faith he'd handed her. She grins and tells him, "If I ever start causing trouble, just let me know, because I'll make sure I'm gone." Looking like he'd rather melt into the floor, Magna snaps out that he can't just tell someone to die so casually. Right in the middle of that tense standoff, a gauntlet snaps into place with a sharp clap, shattering the silence instantly. Percival declares it's time to rest, refill their bellies, and top off their dark magic resistance potions with fresh updates. The ledge is way too tight, so Cygnus jerks his head at a nearby path and pushes the idea, "Let's move this way." Magnus slips past the seated witch and ushers the whole crew into that brand new passage they've just uncovered. He's stunned beyond words to find a man-made stone floor buried so deep underground. Lucha's face bursts into pure joy as she realizes, wait, they might have just stumbled onto ancient ruins no one has ever found. The party steels themselves and plunges into the dark, mysterious tunnel, hunting for whatever waits just ahead.